wizard flips open an ancient book, and the moment it clicks, pure shock hits his face. And yeah, it's straight up magical. Just like that, a towering tree-like monster stomps into the scene and starts wrecking everything in its path. The hero stayed with the squad, barking orders for everyone to unleash their shots into the monster. The tree is finally smashed to pieces, utterly destroyed. This is Magnus, 18, a sorcerer, and he's telling Eugene it's not working, because this creature shrugs off his fire magic like it's nothing. Meet Eugene, 16 years old, a ruthless warrior chosen by the blessing of the god Taigen. Magnus pushes him to at least try other elements, but Eugene slams back that the monster is plant-based and says fire is the move. Magnus admits it sounds right on paper, but he warns that the monster could be totally different. Then Eugene snaps, tells him to shut up, and orders him to follow every command. Under Eugene's command, the protagonist bursts forward and smashes straight into the tree monster. But it doesn't even nick it, like he couldn't scratch the surface. Owen bursts in to treat Eugene, the warrior sprawled on the ground, bleeding from a brutal injury. She kicks off a brand new healing magic technique and starts mending whatever's hurting. The warrior snaps that this was exactly what they expected from Hild. She's way more useful than that sorcerer they've been banking on. This is Kel, the priestess. She swears her job is to keep him fully healed. Then she snaps the team together and calls in the warrior. Meanwhile, a woman snaps their focus by slicing straight into the massive tree monster's core with one brutal axe strike. This is Misha, the fighter, and she snaps that it's a real battle, so there's zero time for flirting. With one savage strike, she knocks the tree monster crashing to the ground. Right then, the warrior threw his arms up and roared in triumph, "We beat the Devon." Then the warrior barks, "Grab the loot, keep your hands off anything else." The hero quietly crouches and snatches something off the ground. With a heavy sigh, he realizes his fire spells barely even singed that old monster. After what felt like forever, the story picked back up inside the kingdom of La Custa's provincial city. The warriors crowd around a table, chomping side by side, and Misha lanes in, asking if those fruits can really boost their stats for real. Then the leader declares that Misha is the one who gets these strength, agility, and reflex fruits, and joy floods her like she just won everything. She grabs one of them and devours it in one bite. With pure joy bubbling in her chest, the girl starts to realize her power, speed, and reflexes truly skyrocketed. At that exact moment, the warrior bursts out that the city's armor fruits are finally theirs, then thrusts them into Rio's hands, right there, with the priests of sacred power and magical power watching. With fear in his eyes, the warrior realizes he's wanted to sharpen his magic for himself, but then he decides it's smarter to hand it to the priestess, because she'll wield it better to heal. With only one fruit left in the world, the protagonist can't help but think, this has to be the one I'll get. The crazy part, the genius snatches it out of nowhere, grinning as he declares, "I'll take it," leaving the boy staring in total disbelief. Magnus snaps, "What's the point of pumping up my magic?" And Eugene shoots back, "So you can use your powers more often, because you barely helped in the last battle." Misha nods and backs the genius up, then leans in and tells Magnus, "If you want something, you don't get it for free, you earn it." Clenching his fists, the protagonist rages in his head. If they'd let him use his other abilities back then, he could have carved up that monster and left it in pieces. While you're in the fruit shop, Eugene snaps that bringing Magnus into the group was a terrible call. He'd expected a genius fighting by their side, but what they got was nothing but disappointment. Ryujin boasts that only he can decode the sacred sigils, and somehow he still managed to keep the crew moving forward. Sneering with a grin, he tells him that besides all that, Magnus is completely useless, and then challenges him, "So what do you think?" Everyone starts mocking the sorcerer, calling him nothing but dead weight, and then someone chimes in that raw physical power crushes in fights, until right then and there, they all burst into laughter. Meanwhile, the genius kept bursting into laughter, openly taunting the protagonist like it was all a joke. Suddenly his face flips, he snaps that there's no place for Magnus in the group, and tells him to leave right now. Hearing that, the wizard just stood up, turned his back, and strode off. The fighter snaps, "Are we really doing this?" And the boy fires back, "Don't need anything fancy, just physical strength." Misha then snaps that only a coward would hide behind excuses and think he can say whatever he wants. On the street, Magnus can't stop thinking about Malwyn, because everyone expected the world from him, and now it's time to turn around and head back home. As he relived everything from his past, he realized he wasn't just carrying his own name. He was the banner for every sorcerer and wizard back home, and that meant one thing. It was his sacred duty to save the world and lift his whole class to glory. Irritation flares as he snaps that he can't just go back like nothing happened. Then, right in that moment, someone steals his attention. It was that guy in the tavern with them who caught their whispers about the Keens heading back to the city, and when he dropped what he knew, it lit a spark of curiosity in him right on the spot. The mysterious stranger leans in and whispers that Magnus can read secret sigils he's heard about, and casually tells him, "I've got a book I want to show you." With a grin plastered on his face, he bets this will light a fire under the boy's curiosity. When Magnus finally clicks what's happening, shock explodes into tears. He realizes those sacred sigils are real. He reads the title and his eyes go wide. This is exactly what he needs to take down Demon King Morpha, a sacred encyclopedia penned by the gods themselves. Buzzing with excitement, he tells himself, "All right, this is where it finally gets interesting." Magnus knows the sigils were meant for the 600 apostles, Era alone, but he can read them anyway, and that means the 600's creators have a past that's way different than the story everyone tells. The protagonist leans in and asks the price, and the man blurts that he planned to give it away for free, yet any amount would help, so the wizard doesn't hesitate, gladly tosses over a few coins and fires back, "Is this enough?" Every monster in this world was born from the Demon King Morpha's dark energy, so if that king still lives, the right conditions will wake them up again, no matter how many times you crush them. Surprised and jittery, the boy can't help but wonder, does his book really know everything about the world? Slumped on his bed in that room, he finally gets it. This is exactly why everything happened. No matter how many monsters he mowed down, they just kept crawling back like they'd never learned fear. He feels sick from that book and snaps, "What the hell is going on here?" 3 days later, he's alone in the forest, crouched and waiting. Then the tree monster from before crashes back into sight. Shocked out of his mind, he finally realizes, yeah, it actually worked. But the second he planted that energy, a brand new death end was born. When it all clicks, he can't help it, his smile breaks out. He yanks his staff free with brutal force, then squares up like he's about to tear into the fight. Grinning with pure hype, he blasts out that his one-on-one showdown with the infamous Death End is finally about to kick off. The monster's cough finally hits his ears, so he realizes it hasn't clocked him yet, and he seizes the moment. Without warning, he unleashes a magical attack and commands it to put everyone to sleep. This Death End is supposed to shrug off magic attacks, at least that's what he thought, until he realized every monster has its own one kind of spell it can't dodge. After he lands the attack, the boy finally realizes it. This monster is being driven by hypnosis. This monster is a plant-type menace with deathly power, immune to every fire spell, and its weed mist strikes with pure lightning. When these creatures show up in battle, his fire magic might as well be dead on arrival, so as he unleashes lightning, it hits him. He has to bet everything on this spell, stacking damage with 5, driving it up a single path, and going for that devastating critical shock. At that exact moment it hits him, everything that warrior said about this plant-type monster and how fire would be the winning move. He grins, sweating like crazy, and then tells himself, straight-faced, a warrior got it wrong. He clocks exactly who's to blame, and it hits him hard. He should have trusted his gut from the start. He vows that you'll stop letting other people call the shots for you and trust only his own mind, his own responsibility, and his power to crush every demon kind. With the chain snapped off, he makes a vow. He'll carve his name into the world and prove every sorcerer out there that they're part of the most powerful, most respected class alive. The book declares it straight up, the supreme gods won't lift a finger, whatever chaos hits. They say it like a vow, honor the ones who stand on their own feet, push forward with hard-earned wisdom, and grip destiny in their hands, so their journey becomes pure courage and unbreakable determination. As he devoured every word in that book, pure excitement surged through him, and then he unleashed his magic. Hurling his lightning magic straight at the tree monster. Gets fully crushed and then drops to the ground in a full collapse. Once the beast finally goes down, a bunch of those fruits start raining from the sky. Magnus powers up to level 24 and his sacred might explodes, speed surges, magical energy skyrockets, and his magic power jumps through the roof. Shock hits him. This world of experiences is mind-blowing, and to top it off, his power has shot up faster than he ever expected. All healed up, he grabs the encyclopedia and declares, straight to the point, that this book is the absolute best. In the end, he carved through all 8 death trees, and the brawl didn't just break them, it supercharged him, stacking new abilities until he leveled up to 28. He realizes that if his level keeps climbing this fast, he'll soon need way better gear, because his old staff is only D rank. He can't stop daydreaming about snagging an S-ranked weapon, or at least a C-ranked magic staff. But if you ever stumbled on one, it would cost you a small fortune. Exhausted, he collapses onto his bed, stares at the ceiling, and mutters that his situation feels totally hopeless. Suddenly, he snatches the book next to him, eyes blazing, and blurts out, "It's incredible." He clenches those wings like his life depends on it, because once he takes hold, he's flying straight into supreme power. He strides across the rooftop and it hits him, this has to be the place. Without wasting a second, he rushes to a chimney, shoves through, and vanishes inside. He drops down in slow motion, floating on his levitation power. He says this spell is perfect for steering his speed, and then, while he's falling, he tells him, per the encyclopedia, that once he hits level 29, he'll finally learn how to fly. Seconds later, he drops down and lands softly on the ground, brushing off soot, because he slid through that chimney and the infiltration hit its mark. Just like the book warned him, the mansion sat empty, and this creepy place only gets used when the King of Staves moves in. At that exact moment, he bursts through the door. Standing before that colossal library, he can't help but remember, back in La Custa, the King of Staves was hailed as the strongest sorcerer in the whole kingdom. 10 years ago, they cast him out alone in his mansion and left him to die. Finally, Magnus snags the supreme rank as staff, lifts it like a trophy, and says the shaft is pure methyl and stupidly lightweight. He studies the staff up close, then declares it could fetch at least 10,000 coins in the market. Or you could cash it in for a whopping 100,000 coins once it's sold. Equipped, it turbocharges every attack spell by a massive 73% and supercharges all enhancement magic by 76%, then hits even harder with a 51% shot at crushing the enemy's special magic resistance, while every spell the user casts costs 25% less mana. In the middle of holding that staff, he just shrugs and drops. It's incredible. Later on, the protagonist climbed to the top of a hill and stood there, facing whatever came next. Tejiro swears that after he died, this supreme staff vanished from history too, and even demanded permission to borrow it. He vows he'll come back, recover the staff, and bury it right by his grave. Then Magnus used every scrap of intel the book gave him, and gobbled up nearly every one-of-a-kind thing he could get his hands on across the kingdom, especially the illegal loot stolen by nefarious groups, until he finally snagged the sage's staff. He clutched the thunder sword in Jarich's protection ring, then tore through danger, saving lives and snagging rare magical scroll scripts. The victims tear up as they thank him, because they finally understand they were sold off and forced to live like slaves for years. One of them blurts out his name, and the moment it lands, the protagonist freezes, because he suddenly realizes he's got zero charm with beautiful girls. Humiliation flooded him, and he snapped that his name isn't even worth saying, then begged to be escorted home. He admits to himself that even if he saved some people, stealing from others is still illegal, so he decides to keep his face out of the spotlight. Then he waves them goodbye, clinging to one last hope that fate will reunite them someday, because this right here is only the start of the tale. Later, he counts to 10 and his jaw drops. He can't believe how many of them there are, all from that standard grade C team. He stared at the weapons and made up his mind. He should hold on to the ones he likes and dump the rest, or maybe keep the Thunder Sword as a whole new weapon class. He says grade C stuff hardly ever hits the market, so if he dumps too many at once, the pattern screams fakes, and people will start digging into where those items really came from. He takes a breath, then finally realizes he has to nail the perfect place and the perfect moment to sell these things, and realizes his very first mission is to track down a merchant he can actually trust. The very next day, he's standing right in front of the Mom Merchant Association, staring it down like it owes him answers. This mother-f***ing Mom Merchant Association is one of the biggest powerhouses around, pumping out and trading magical weapons of every kind. Eugene bursts in, telling his group that the enemies here have exactly what they're hunting for, and the nun snaps back that they need to wait, because their research has only just begun. Magnus whips his gaze to the side and spots his old party standing there. When he spots the newcomer, his gut twists. Could this be the one they dragged in to replace them? Then he straight up admits it happened way too fast. Fury burning in his chest, the warrior starts glaring at Magnus with sharp, suspicious eyes. Magnus strides up to the group and demands to know what's going on. Are they actually trying to buy something? The warrior snaps back that it's none of his business, and just like that, the hero turns to leave, muttering that he hopes they find what they're after. The two burials press the warrior, saying Magnus has to know something, because after all, he's his sorcerer. Seeing the warrior seethe with rage, the protagonist lends in and demands, "So what's the deal? Why do you even need me?" Eugene shoots back that they're hunting a magical staff, but the market makes it impossible to find. Then he leans in and asks if the boy knows where one can be located. Without a second thought, Magnus confirms he knows, and then casually drops that his storage is stacked with more than 10. The warrior is stunned, then blurts out, "Where can I buy those?" The protagonist brushes off the question and fires back, Why are you hunting something this magical if our team doesn't even have a sorcerer? The warrior says it's a noble's demand and barks at Magnus to hurry up and spill where the staff is. But Magnus can't help thinking, like always, this guy has absolutely no clue how to ask for a favor. The nun steps in right then, speaks softly but firmly, and tells them they truly need the staff, then asks him if he can show them where to find it. Magnus grins and tells them he's got an extra one right now, then pitches the idea of selling it to the group. The nun drops to her knees and begs him to hand it over. She offers 1,000 coins for the staff, and when that won't cut it, she pushes the price to 1,200. The sorcerer snaps, stunned, "Wait, you really have that much money?" Hild answers that if the warrior is going to take down the Demon King, the church will back the quest with everything it has, so the hero finally truly understands. He points out that these church rules brag about God Tigo, yet their deeds clash with their own words, because they use healing magic to bleed the poor for money. Seeing that, the protagonist snaps into action. He figures he can grab their money with zero guilt. Smiling, he nods and says he accepts, then slams the price down at 1,200 coins, and the nun lights up with pure, grateful joy. In his gut, he knows that asking a favor means bowing to the very person who openly hates them. Still, he can't shake the thought that they're tearing up inside, mortified and burning with rage at every step. He can't believe they pushed this far just to score a grade C. Then he thrusts the magical staff into the nun's hands. Out of nowhere, the warrior bursts into laughter, firing off a question. Do you have any idea why you were even chasing after that magical staff? As soon as she answers, he blurts out the truth. The guy they serve offered the trade, whatever it is, for a mythical sword. Bragging through a grin, he declares this sword's worth is worth no less than 5,000 coins in the marketplace. And right after he says it, a sinister smile creeps onto his face. Without a hint of interest, the boy smirks and tells them, "That's great for you." Magnus wonders if the others really think he'll regret it just because of that, and even if he does, he shrugs it off like it doesn't matter. Not like he's starting from scratch. This guy already has 6 rank B mithril swords in his stash, and on top of that, he's holding the Thunder Sword title too. With a grin, he tells himself, no way does he care about any of this. As he turns away, he throws his old group a fearless good luck wish, because they're going to march on and crush the Demon King. Crossing her arms and snapping her gaze away, the fighter fires back at Magnus, demanding to know why he still refuses to come back to the group. Surprised, he can't stop thinking, why do I even have to do this? Staring at her, he spots that sharp, sulky look on her face, like a kid refusing to smile, and he realizes he's never seen her wear that kind of emotion before. He snaps his focus to the market and starts scanning every stall, wondering where he can finally sell his items, and to who. Then one of them shouts his name, yanking his eyes back in an instant. He studies the woman in front of him, and it hits hard. She matches the girl from his memories, the one snatched up by those slave traders. As she closes in, she blurts out an apology and asks, "Are you still the same as before?" After she blurts out that question, heat rushes to her face and she freezes in full embarrassment, leaving the hero rattled, totally lost and dangerously nervous. Chasing after her, he can't shake the thought, maybe that first run-in was luck, but the second, that's fate gripping his life. Soon enough, she lunges after him and catches him just in time. He tells her she can't say stuff like that in public, and when the girl starts to stutter, she blurts out that she's insanely grateful. She couldn't rein in her emotions, so it all spilled out. He knows looting bandits isn't some unforgivable crime, but if he can't stop her from spilling this info to everyone else, things could get messy fast. Magnus leans in and asks if she works here, and she lights up as she says, "Yeah, I finally got to see you again." She introduces herself and declares she's a merchant's daughter, not the kind who'd miss a chance like this, until the protagonist locks on, stunned, because she's the very daughter of the chief merchant. After finishing her introduction, she looks him in the eye and says, "I'm Arya, and I'm here to repay you for saving my life." They lock eyes and just freeze in this brutal, awkward silence. Watching her, he can't shake the feeling that she's actually trying to pay him back like this, and it all feels unreal, so he tells himself to slow down, think it through, and stay on guard. Trembling with nerves, Arya blurts out that he doesn't want her around, then shoots back, "So you want more than just hanging out with me, right?" She blurts out that right then, she'd been kidnapped, thrown into a cell, and crushed by terror over what her life would become, completely devastated. Then boom, the Cairo shows up out of nowhere and saves her. The second he arrived, she knew. He moved with this effortless grace, had the kindest heart, and somehow, he rescued every single one of them who'd been captured. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she said that her work lets her meet all kinds of people, but this time, she just met someone truly mind-blowing for the very first time. With his head finally resting, the hero realizes this kind of mess was inevitable, no matter what he does. Saying he isn't into a relationship would be a straight-up lie, yet as he grips her shoulders, his vow to wipe out anything demonic burns too hot to ignore. Clenched fists and shaking resolve, he tells himself there's only one option: he has to tell her. Sweat pours down his face as he blurted out an apology, confessing he has basically zero experience with women, and he's being dead honest. Still, it hits him. He just wanted to tell her his goal, defeating the Demon King, and he can't figure out why he blurted it out like that. The woman's totally stunned, then shakes it off and tells him it's fine, admitting she's never really had experience with men either. Coughing, Magnus tells her that if she keeps insisting on going out with him, it really won't be a bad thing. Then Arya practically explodes with joy, saying it's absolutely wonderful. Arya reassures him with a bright smile. She insists she truly doesn't care, especially since it's their first time, and she tells him straight up that if it's with him, she'll gladly give him everything she's got. Seeing that, the boy's face instantly floods with heat, and embarrassment snaps him shut. Magnus steps up and introduces himself, and Arya immediately fires back, asking if he's not part of the hero's crew. Then he drops the bombshell: he got expelled. She's furious, and she snaps that even as just a normal girl, she can still tell he's strong. Then he laughs like it doesn't matter. With his voice shaking, he asks what they're gonna do about this deep, looming problem. Then she casually says she's got next Wednesday off, and just like that, it's settled. He figures out that if he keeps Arya close, she won't spill the truth about the loot he snatched from those bandits, and at the same time, he'll forge a real bond with the merchant's daughter. He tells himself it's all about business and personal gain, and even though it looks bad, he swears he never technically lied to her. Blushing hard, he finally cracks and admits this is his very first time, and that what he feels right now is pure, honest love. After a while, the days blur, and now it's Wednesday, packed shoulder to shoulder on a crowded street in the south of the city. As he weaves through the crowd, he remembers what dating heroes preach: show up early and you grab the first advantage. He scoffs at it like nonsense, then straight up decides he'll arrive right on time. As he trudges on, it finally hits him. Those memories were nothing but his own thoughts. With a grin, he starts daydreaming about them falling in love, and admits, against his own doubts, that it's not as terrible as it sounds. When Magnus finally reaches the meetup spot, he shoots off an apology without even catching his breath. And she blurts that she's been bouncing with excitement since morning. Honestly, he finds it painfully adorable. Magnus says he tracked down a spot that serves lunch, and Arya immediately challenges him. Did he really go hunting for a place just for her? He shoots back, yeah, it's all for you. As they walk, he can't stop wondering if she'll let him take her hand, like if she feels safe, she'll say yes. But the moment he reaches for her, she yanks back and pulls away. Tears welled up as shock hit him, and he couldn't believe it. Was she really refusing to hold his hand? His palms start to sweat like crazy, then boom, she grabs his hand. Hands clasped tight, she beams and swears it feels amazing. Then she meets Magnus's eyes and tells him they have to go. Shocked and mortified, he tells himself, Grulers are insane. At the restaurant, she lights up and says she's in love with pancakes, and Magnus leans in asking if Arya has ever tried food from this place before. Arya says this is her first time there, and he laughs, telling her he's been there countless times, and swears the food is unreal. Then the waiter bursts in with a special dish just for them. From what they can spot, there's strawberries, crispy bacon, and eggs waiting like breakfast trophies. The boy tells himself, hey, the encyclopedia says this bakery turns out great food, like real restaurant-level stuff, but it's like nobody's heard of it, and he's convinced reputation can make or break a place. He figures it's simple: pack the place too tight, and customers lose their appetite fast. While he's eating, the omelet hits him like a flavor knockout. He can taste how the buttery saltiness melts in perfect harmony with the bacon. Curious, he blurts out to Arya, how's the food? And she grins back that it's insanely delicious, so good it feels like it'll melt in your mouth. She tells him the apple sweetness pairs perfectly with that fruit oil, and together they turn the pancakes into something seriously next level. Curious about how it tastes, the boy blurts out that they should split one of the dishes, and she instantly agrees. Relief floods him as he realizes he found an amazing place to eat. Turns out the whole search was totally worth it. Later, she grins and tells him it's the tastiest food she's ever tasted, and his heart lights up instantly. She drags her knuckles along his arm and asks, breathless, where they're headed next. The boy freezes in pure embarrassment the moment he realizes that chest is bouncing right beside his arm. Right then, Magnus makes a bold call. He hauls the gorilla to a bunch of different spots so it can run wild and enjoy the day until night finally falls. Arya grins and tells the boy she had a blast today, and he lights up, saying he's just glad she enjoyed herself. until Arya insists she has to pay him back somehow, and Magnus shakes his head, saying today was compensation enough. Suddenly she cuts right in front of him, closes the distance to the protagonist, and demands a promise. Don't forget, you and I are going out again in the future. On her tippy toes, she plants a huge kiss on the hero. Bam! His whole world freezes, eyes popping wide in shock while hers stay shut, turning the moment into pure, burning passion. While the hero is still reeling in shock, he can't decide what to do next. Seeing his wide-eyed shock, she can't help but wonder, could this be Magnus's very first kiss? Then she bolts off in pure panic, leaving the hero stranded, totally alone, swallowed by the crowd. Still shaking with nervous embarrassment, he wipes his lips and whispers to himself that he really got kissed. Inside a mind's home. He grabbed the book, flipped it open, and said, "No wonder my date went so perfectly. This book did it." Kippy hands read a whole chapter packed with major names, and buried inside it is a deep, detailed feature on Arya, the head of the Mon Merchant Association's daughter. Using the traits and tastes from that book, he picked the perfect restaurants, and now he's sure, next time he's landing another flawless date. Knowing as long as she's happy. He's totally fine with it. He even breaks into a grin when he remembers her. He snatches up the book and tells everyone it's insanely useful. Lying in bed, he stares at the ceiling like it owes him answers, realizing he's already uncovered most of the hidden goodies, and then his mind races ahead to what he'll do next. While you're flipping through the pages, you suddenly spot something that just doesn't belong. As he keeps reading, a wild thought hits him. Wait, could this be the girl they once tried to rescue? And is this really that side quest, right in Stave Mel and Enzo village? Mel, yep, she was just a 14-year-old girl living out in the countryside, and this mysterious illness pinned her to the bed, like her life had stopped mid-race. A cursed sickness hit her hard, and somehow even her sacred magic powers couldn't stop it. Back then, he had no power at all to save her. The book rips open the truth. This sickness comes from a demonic beast's curse, sealed in his staff, so he slams the decision down and orders them to head straight for Enzo village. The village chief of Enzo grills him. So you're really planning to take down that beast in the forest, and you're doing it solo. With no hesitation, the hero blurts that he drifted away from his old crew, for reasons only he knows. Even with everything that's happened, people still say Magnus is an incredible sorcerer. Then Magnus just smirks and says that kind of praise is flattering, and he can't help but enjoy it. Magnus then blurts out that he's here to ask permission to stay for a while, and the man just shrugs, saying he can stay at his house anytime. The chief finally breaks down and tells them his own son and the whole family got wiped out by that plague tearing through the village, so yeah, there's plenty of room now. With a soft cough, the hero steers the talk right back to the sickness. He says it all somehow circles back to his granddaughter, Mel, but even he can't quite pin down the details. He tells her if we take down that creature, your illness could vanish on the spot right now. Stunned, the man jerks to his feet and demands, "Is that really true?" And Magnus answers, "I'm not sure, not completely." Stammering through his embarrassment, the man blurts out an apology for being rude, and the hero instantly realizes that claiming certainty was way too much, admitting he didn't know felt like the truth all along. But he already had an exit in mind, because killing that beast to save Mel was the only move he could think of, the best one he had. Because it would tackle the urgent problems, and he honestly doesn't want that old man or that poor girl to feel like they owe him anything. With a shaky breath, he swears he'll do his best to stay out of trouble like this, and then he steels himself to push through no matter what. Later on, he suddenly finds himself face to face with a crowd of people staring at him like every move is under a microscope. The roaring crowd cheers him on as a boy warns Magnus not to blow his one shot at a safe trip, and Ginny grudgingly admits the truth, only that kid can pull this off. Everyone's counting on him, no exceptions. As Magnus walks out, he thinks a simple job might have been easy, but now his stomach is in knots. Then he bursts into the forest. Magnus starts to walk forward, and then, right behind him, someone keeps falling a step short. He snaps around in a heartbeat, slamming his staff toward a shadowy mystery. Suddenly, right in front of him, a massive brute with a sword ripped out of its scabbard comes charging, armor gleaming, danger roaring. The protagonist blurts, "Is my name Glance?" and the knight itself bows down like it knows the answer. Meet Glance, Enzo village's guard. He tells the boy this recognition is an honor, and the hero nods like, yeah, of course. A sharp memory is exactly what saves him in moments like these. On bended knee, the man begs the boy to grant his wish. Then Magnus leans in, asks if he wants to team up and take down the boss together. With a hard, steady stare, the knight leans in and calmly puts in his request. Magnus studies the man and clocks it instantly. This isn't just some ordinary village guard. He's got real battle experience and serious combat skill. With a head full of questions, he demanded to know why Glance would help at all. Was it for the goods, or was this just how a guard did his job? The guard snaps back that honestly, he just wants to save Mel. Cracking through the forest path, the man tells Magnus that Mel is his childhood friend, and that he's only 4 years older, which hits him like a punch when he realizes the guard is just 18. After laying it all out, Glance finally confesses he loves her too. He pushes the boy to blurt out whether he plans to confess his feelings, and the man just answers that it would be brutally hard for him. He admits that just by how he looks, everything feels like a fight. Still, he refuses to stay weak. He wants to become strong enough to protect her. The second he heard Magnus had a plan, he refused to sit back and do nothing. Magma bragged that he was a sorcerer and couldn't keep him safe in the fight. Then the guard snapped back, basically telling him, "Use me as cover, use whatever you need." Hyro's stunned. This knight isn't acting at all. He looks ready to throw his own life away. Glance leans in and admits he's felt it all along. Every year of sword training has brought him straight to this moment. The protagonist realizes this guy is exactly the kind of ally he needs, because all he's got right now is his own sorcerer power. He even clocks that gut punch fear, the one that comes with facing death. As he looks back, he waves Glance over and pushes for a full talk. Combat strategies right then. Magnus drags a stick across the dirt and starts laying out his plan, point by point. He says Glenn's skill set puts us at about level 7 to 9. Then Glenn points out Magnus has a status inspection power, only for the kid to snap back that it doesn't go deeper. He can see just the basic info. He realizes this plan collapses if the target is level 28 like him, though for a vanguard, sitting at levels 7 to 9 is pretty solid, but the enemy is level 19, and now they've got to beat a monster gap in levels. Then wham, a thunderous sound rips through the forest, echoing off the trees. Glance and Magnus brace themselves, ready to unleash everything in the fight. And the protagonist snaps at him to stay sharp, because that monster is closing in fast. Right then, a giant creature bursts out of the shadows, towering into existence. Meet Mosrino, the boss, a towering forest giant that'll make the whole land tremble. Magnus clenches his magic and slams the supreme staff into place. Its power triples every enhancement spell he casts, turning his magic up to insane levels. In that split second, his stack glands went into overdrive. With upgraded shielding, boosted power, and sharper utility, it even carries sacred fire attributes that wrap it in holy protection. Afterward, the knight warns in a grim voice that this power, granted by Magnus Sama, is the real kind of dangerous to hold. No hesitation, this monster surges forward like a living disaster. Staring down the creature, Magnus realizes almost nobody can face monsters like this and live to tell the tale. But his sorcerer's gift doesn't just fight the beast. It hardens his mind, unleashing an aura that feels almost like a priest's power. With determination fueling every nerve and feelings for Mel burning in his chest, he turns the knight into a battlefield warrior, ready to crush fear. With one deadly strike, Gland crushed the monster, and then he finally grinned, shouting that Magnazama made this kind of fight way easier. Then he drops strike after strike, unleashing a relentless combo that won't let up. As Magnus watches the clash, he realizes one brutal truth. A monster punch that never lands is just noise. Then Glance surges forward with his enhanced agility. He spots the forest, and those huge, vulnerable eyes go wide, like he can't figure out why he shouldn't tarry them. The watcher between the two leads snaps to the truth. Those weak spots can't be hurt, and the Glands fire off that lame agility debuff by exploiting the enemy's own inept moves. Before Magnus even said it, he laid out the terrifying truth. As long as he keeps cranking up the invasion rate, the odds of getting hit will keep shrinking, bit by bit, over time. He tells Glands to push his luck, do his absolute best, and stay out of the blast so he doesn't get hit. The guard throws every ounce of his strength into the fight, battling that giant monster all by himself. Magnus finally gets it. If he has to take down this boss solo, he'll need to sling buffs and debuffs nonstop and time every attack with razor-sharp coordination. Thanks to Glance, the time needed to take down this boss shrinks drastically. After they hash out their plan, Magnus admits it. This creature shrugs off fire like it's barely even a threat. He cranks up the power-up, boosts the basic attack, and ramps the critical damage to squeeze out every last bit of advantage. And those guards are laser-focused, ready to tear into the battle with everything they've got. Then Magnus swings in and smashes the monster with a brutal, earth-shaking blow. Totally unexpected twists, he'd still been saved in the end. It erupts into a brutal, no-holds-barred clash. This hit spirals into a raging tornado, smashing straight into the enemy with deadly precision. As soon as the dust settles, Magma drops the real kicker. He says it was a good thing he threw up that magical shield. Without that final layer of defense, the man would have been dead on the spot. He hoisted Glanz back up and Magnus leaned in like it was urgent. We're heading back now. At the far edge of the village, every villager crowds around Magnus-sama and welcomes him with open arms. They erupted with relief, screaming with joy that both of them came back safe and sound. Una yells out to Glance, demanding to know where he vanished to, because everyone's been freaking out and waiting on him. Just then another girl jumps in and says the only thing that matters is they're both back safe, and the man nods, agreeing. With a hand on the protagonist's shoulder, the girl grins and says she can finally reach the legendary sorcerer for real, right in the flesh. A bunch of women swarm him, practically begging, "We want to touch you too." Mortified, Magnus blurts out, "So you really need to touch me that badly?" He glances sideways, and there a kid is freaking out, saying that the monster's growl was absolutely bone-chilling. Nerves jolt through Magnus as he stares into the dark, wondering if that monster's roar can truly carry all the way back to the village. Just then a girl suddenly shouts, "Magnus-sama." It's Mel, and the second the villagers spot her, they look absolutely terrified. Right then Magnus clocked the way the Glans slipped his gaze, pure embarrassment. With tears streaming down his face, the old man of the village grabbed Magnus-sama's hands and thanked him over and over, because he truly believed his only granddaughter was moments away from dying. Mel demands answers. Was that forest monster really behind her sickness? Did he beat it just to save her? And what does he want from her so she can finally repay him? Magnus-sama suddenly shoves Glans forward and tells Mel to thank him. He tells them it was Glans who pushed through to cure her, then stormed to Magnus for help, and by taking the hits and acting as the shield against that monster's assault, Glans carved out the opening that sealed their victory. He storms in and insists Glance isn't some random pick fate tossed aside. Glance is the real hero of this whole story. Hearing all of this, Glance totally panics, so the protagonist laughs and tells the hero, "Don't go acting so modest." Smiling through it all, she says Glance is totally different, and then she leans in, asking how he fights with that kind of unshakable determination. One more villager chimes in and they swear Mel is totally, completely right. Ida Glance finally admits it, she might be right. With his arms crossed, Magnus soaks in the cozy warmth and gentle words, and a calm smile creeps in. Then Mel steps up, grins and glances before wrapping him in a hug. Beaming, she tells him she genuinely treasures everything Glance did for her, and she's over the moon. As Magnus clocks the whole situation, he can't stop thinking about Glans' dead-eyed expression the moment they first met. He can't shake the feeling that Glans never believed they had a shot at winning. He shrugs it off like it doesn't matter because honestly he never really got it in the first place. Then, right in that heartbeat, they lean in for a kiss and miss it, just barely. Magnus feels a little out of place, but he knows he can't waste time. He's got to get back to La Custa fast and check the area right away. After a while, the whole village lights up, because the celebration finally kicks off. Old folks and little kids alike are having a blast, digging in, chowing down, and washing it all down with drinks. A stop man begs the girls to come drink with them, and then, right on his heels, another shouts for everyone to hurry. Meanwhile, the protagonist is chowing down on his skewer. A whole group of women closes in, thrusting wine his way, and even wild strawberry juice like it's a prize. At that exact moment, the village elder barks Magnus's name and calls him out. As he steps up, the elder leans in and tells him, in plain truth, that he wants to repay Magnus for everything he's done. Then he admits the truth: this tiny rural village has nothing worth paying for something that big. Nervous to the bone, Magnus suddenly realizes he hates where this is going. Like, even if the villagers offered money, they never should have pushed things this far. Magnus gestures and tells him, "Don't bother, I got my reward already." Then the guy fires back, asking what that reward even was. Magnus leans in and tells him straight up, yeah, he grabbed the reward from the boss and it's plenty for him. The man bows and the boy realizes one thing: this isn't a bluff, Magnus is just speaking the truth. In the book, Magnus reads that the question he's been chasing is exactly what he needs, and after his latest digging, it clicks. This quest points straight to that forest giant the encyclopedia talks about. Then it hits him, he got it all just by claiming that terrarium, the heart of the green forest, which he now grips in his hand. This legendary item is now a rare prize, hammered by a mystical blacksmith from a dwarf tribe, like it was forged with magic itself. The magical item was crafted with a secret technique no one could imitate. The real key ingredient for this item is... Magnus is holding it right now, and you can practically see the excitement bursting out of him. As Magnus strides toward Glance, he blurts out, "Can I keep it?" Glance just grins and says, "That's only the shattered bits of my shield, no big deal." Turns out the crafting material, the relic, and the shield itself are all fragments from the same shield, worn down for ages until they finally turned into a relic. Magnus tells them he can plug that material into an acoustic to fuel extra fights, and it won't get in Gland's way. Then he pats Gland on the back and says, straight up, he's been a huge help. The boy explains that if this thing clicks together with the shield, they'll forge a brand new magical item, one that could tip the scales in his fight against the coming demon. Glance admits, I'll be real, I don't fully get all of this, but if it helps Magnus, he's honored to jump in and support. Later on, Magnus kicked back with a steaming cup of coffee, eyes drifting as he soaked in memories from the book. He says the next move is finding the mystical blacksmith, then flips through the pages like his life depends on it, hunting for answers, until the book calls out key names including Baser, the mystical blacksmith, an eccentric dwarf who runs a workshop deep in Izmit Taman. Right then, Magnus snatches the book back into his hands, stares at the pages, and declares, I've found him. This is the kingdom of La Custa, where legends get born. Inside the kingdom, Magnus strides up to a door and starts knocking hard, demanding permission to step in. With a shaky breath, he asks if anyone's home. Irritation flares, he grumbles that he had to cut his date short just to come here, and he's still not even found the person. Right then he decides to fling the door open, then panics mid-breath, muttering that this is a bad idea because the book warned Bezerf is insanely grumpy, and barging in like this could push him over the edge. But when Magnus scans the hallway, he clocks everything, mess scattered all over the floor. He spots the man crumpled to the ground, then bolts over like it's an emergency and rushes to help. He demanded to know what the heck happened. Bezer's workshop is buzzing, and right then the hero grabs the old man, shakes him hard, and demands, are you okay? He can't shake the suspicion that Eugene's crew is behind it. Annoy can't believe Bezerv has any time left for this kind of mess. They even claim that his huge belly is the ultimate badge of honor for every worker out there, and yeah, that's blacksmith Bezerv. Suddenly the man blurts that one sip of a magical potion will have him up and moving fast, but then he snaps, nothing comes for free, and admits he doesn't trust humans at all. He breaks it down, some heroes dragged him into forging weapons, then swiped the goods after, acting less like saviors and more like straight-up vandals. Magnus admits straight up that they didn't go through hell without reason, some of it was actually worth it. Then Magnus swings the conversation completely and jabs at a weapon named the rank P Thunder Trident, asking if it's up for sale. He offers 8,000 gold coins on the spot, insisting he has zero time to gamble on investments right now, then promises he'll look it over again once he's back at the inn. He pauses, weighs it all in his mind, and then the blacksmith nods, saying he gets it and giving his full agreement. In that split second, Magnus yanks the potion back, thanks him to his face, and declares, I'm Magnus, the sorcerer. Then the bearded man lets out his heartfelt gratitude. After the blacksmith drinks that potion, he snaps to his feet. He brushes off his clothes, then drills Magnus' gear, what he's wearing, and whether that staff is actually in his hands. Magnus laughs and tells Bezerv he's a warrior favorite, then asks if he can help forge magical items. Crossing his fingers, Bezerv won't come down too hard, because Magnus is trying to seal a deal that might net his customer a seriously top-tier potion. With a hearty laugh, the old man tells Magnus he loves the attention, then slides him a discount, only to demand 2 loaves of top-tier bread in return. The protagonist wonders if his huge belly is just for show, and the man shrugs like, kid, I used to be pretty damn good-looking back in my youth. The Mandidum Affairs insists that he'd love to take the offer, if only this one huge problem didn't stand in the way. He snaps that the heroes he's talking about didn't just mess with him, they stole his prized hammer. He tells them, from my days as a blacksmith, I've learned this. If you want fighters to truly feel magic, you need the right hammer, no compromises. He claims he doesn't have a hammer strong enough, and there's no way he can forge a top-tier item using something as common as a regular hammer. Inside his head, the boy realizes Eugene's hard work to snatch that hammer was pointless. Right then, the boy flips open the magical items book, and the curious dwarf leans in, blurting, so what are you reading? Slamming the book shut, Magnus leans in and tells them it's all laid out on those pages, then drops the bomb, or Chalcom hammer is about to be theirs. Sometime later, he's hanging out with Arya as they soar across the skies on an Aladdin-style magic carpet. The girl says, at this pace, we'll hit the mine in 2 hours, and behind them, the old man can't stop shaking with pure terror. She remembers it clear as day. Arya's father was a merchant, and he swore this place had the Orchicam hammer they were hunting. Shaking with curiosity, the old man asks if they can really snag those rare materials, and the magnates shout back that yes, they'll get it no matter what, and that hammer will be theirs. This is the doorway straight into Megara's mind, and one of them just blurts out, whoa, what a grand entrance. Arms crossed tight, the dwarf smirks and says this place is made for hauling materials. So yeah, it's no surprise it's this huge. Magnus throws out a suggestion, why not hop on the flying magic carpet and go straight there? And the old man snaps back, asking what he's thinking if he's determined to keep risking that fragile thing. The boy says, for me, it's no big deal, but admits she'd struggle to make it all the way. Then she lights up like crazy, happy because she knows he truly cares about her. After a while, the three kids are crammed on Aladdin's flying magic carpet inside the mine, and the excited hero blurts that they can reach it. Right then, monsters start crawling out of the dark. They're a band of skeletons, all gripping swords like they mean to cut through the night. The old man spits it out, this is the price of human greed. He tells them they'll keep wandering here for eternity, and then just rips into how foolish and downright pathetic they look. He snaps that they're probably just a bunch of losers, and right as the words hit the air, Magnus cracks his knuckles and prepares to strike. With one blazing magic beam, he blasts through a pack of skeleton monsters, shattering every single one to pieces. With that, the crew keeps pushing deeper into the mine as the wizard hammers every monster they meet. Those monsters are always bone-sharp skeletons, fully armed and ready to strike. After a bit, the dwarf squints and blurts that this wizard is way stronger than he ever expected. Breathless, the girl blurts that monsters are still up ahead. Then she jabs toward a pack of armed skeletons closing in, grabs the protagonist by the arm, and admits through shaking fear that she's terrified. Worried to his bones, the dwarf warns the wizard to play it safe. Then the wizard reassures them, saying everything's going to be fine. With total swagger, he declares that this encyclopedia is their unstoppable secret. There's simply no way they're losing. It's like the Megara's entire mind is laid out in one complete, unbroken map. From the exact routes they have to take, because every wrong turn leads straight into what they're desperate to avoid. After those brutal fights, they finally push through to the rear metals area, a massive, abandoned excavation zone stretching out like a ghost town. The blacksmith snaps that even if he's been left behind, the supplies are still there, pointing over his shoulder, and then he swears those monsters won't cut a path for anyone. Right then, a pack of skeleton monsters lunges at them, and the hero hurls his spell-ready magic like his life depends on it. With a thunderous strike of magic, he smashes them to pieces and leaves nothing standing. After that clean hit, he grins and shrugs it off like, no big deal. Then he grips the boy's arm and Arya breathes, stunned like it's crazy that everyone they knew is already gone. Suddenly, several of them burst out from behind, and there they are, the mine's workers, staring right into view. Staring by the portal, the blacksmith finally sees it. He can forge a real connection from this place straight to La Costa. Hold up, surprise, he blurts out that this kid is a straight-up powerhouse wizard. Right here, the man declares, now it's on me, and on the citizens of Mom, to dig forward and start breaking through. As soon as the request hits, everyone springs into action and starts digging like they can't wait to get to it. They swear they'll dig up the whole mine, then ride back to the city, and the protagonist grins, saying, do it like this, and we'll finally have the mission wrapped up. He locks eyes with Arya and declares they have to chase the Orchicam hammer, right now, then whips up another spell, tearing open a huge black portal in front of him as they rush straight into it. Later, back at the merchant's house in the middle of the city. With a smug smile, the man blurts, so what do you think about marrying my daughter? And the moment the words land, the protagonist is left completely stunned. The father starts praising his daughter's razor-sharp mind, swearing she'll handle everything just fine, and then the protagonist cuts in like, yeah, I know she's also insanely attractive. When they interview the boy, he straight up says this is a bad idea, and reminds them that Magnus is on a mission right now to take down the Demon King, which he respects with his whole heart. He says that's exactly why he can't stand the thought of being a burden to him. The old man nods and swears it's the truth. If the Demon King ever drops into the world with greed in his heart, there'll be no way to stop what comes next. Right then, the boy locks eyes with Arya and lets out a silent thank you in his head. He makes it crystal clear how grateful he is that he met her, and how her kindness changed everything. A week later, he storms back to the blacksmith and demands answers. Did you finish the magical item, the relic shield, and the heart of the dark forest? When the protagonist's comments hit, it's clear the blacksmith poured his heart into every single detail of that work. Then he strides right up to the final result and just stands there, stunned, staring in awe. Right in front of him, a colossal robotic bear towers over everything. Red-faced and buzzing with excitement, he blurts out that this gallant battle gear is simply magnificent, and the blacksmith grins, saying it felt downright perfect to forge. He slaps his hand on it and feels his name carved into that spot. They're clocking it instantly, this is a gladius. Magnus beams and says he's proud to have his name etched onto something this wild, then he thanks the blacksmith with real emotion. He even declares he's taking it straight down to the depths of the Mega Rose mine, and that hits the dwarf like a punch to the gut. Right after that, they both climb onto the massive bear and ride straight for the mine. The dwarves beg Magnus to turn back, but he just shrugs it off and erupts into laughter. He shoots back that for now he's done talking. He's heading back into the mine to smash the boss lurking in its darkest pits. He says this fire source can go toe-to-toe with undead monsters, and then drops the bomb. The boss is level 34 while he's stuck at level 28, so yeah, you'd better get that avatar because it's non-negotiable. He whirls back, locks eyes with the blacksmith, and says, "This is the instant this creature comes into the story." He explains that as a test, this boss is about to unleash a truly terrifying challenge. He ends it with a sharp "take it easy, no matter what," and the dwarf breaks into a thankful exhale, finally feeling the weight lift off his chest. After a while, they finally slam into the entrance of Mega Rose Mine, and as soon as they step inside, they fire mana beams to blast every undead thing out of existence. As they tore through the mine at breakneck speed, Magnus leaned in and told Gladius, "This is going to be your first real battle." He tells himself this time his opponent is the real deal, dangerous enough to demand full focus, because he can't afford even one missed beat. He has to stay locked in and save Bezerf. But the dwarf finally snaps his attention into place, telling the wizard to just do his job, while still worrying the kid might get hurt, and the boy nods along. Soon, they finally push into the dead center of Megaro's massive mind. Both stand face to face with a colossal bone-made monster, so fossil-like it looks ripped straight out of ancient time. Nervously, Magnus hisses to Bezerf, "Slip behind that rock and don't let anyone see you." He squints at the scene and finally clocks it. The black mist in front of him is miasma. His encyclopedia even warns that low-level adventurers get hurt just from brushing it, and if you gulp too much, it'll kill you. That dinosaur fossil-looking monster keeps locking eyes with him, stalking closer and gearing up to strike. The level 34 bone dragon looms in, ready to wage war. At that exact moment, the protagonist locks eyes and realizes the dragon is summoning the skeletons right out of the shadows. The metal bear doesn't even pause. It rockets straight at the skeletons and smashes them into scattered pieces. With Gladius in your hands, you yank the skeleton's focus away, so Magnus can go all in and finally smash the boss. Magnus grips his staff, unleashes his spell, and drives it straight into the monster. But it changes nothing. Magnus's nerves spike as he wonders if dark magic can't touch the undead monsters at all. Quickly, he switches tactics and hurls a storm of stones at the creature. The blacksmith leans in and says, "Good, this is working. Now don't stop. Keep going just like that." But the bone dragon starts gearing up for a brutal counterattack. At this moment, it starts sprouting a second head, an exact copy of the first, and the old man just stares in stunned terror, wondering whether he's watching an immoral monster right in front of him. Still, the protagonist grits his teeth, refuses to quit, and hurls another spell straight at the creature. Baser's face twists with worry as he snaps that it'll be pointless. Then the boy glares back and tells him, "Trust me." Then the monster rips out yet another head, and suddenly it's a whole trio roaring in the same body. The three heads spit beams from every mouth, blasting straight at the protagonist. Magnus takes the hit head-on, cranking up his magical resistance, hardening his defenses, and cashing in the power of the guardian angel's annihilation to hold the attack back. After surviving the attack, a wild, crazed look snaps onto his face. He insists he has to keep going and that he's totally fine. He didn't even get a breath straight away. He unleashed his shadow magic. And just like that again, it's still not making a dent. Worried, Bezerf presses him for what he's about to do, and the boy just grins and says he's aiming with pinpoint care. He explains that Mana 3 doesn't just hit the body, it tears straight into the target's mana and deals direct damage. He also clocks that the thing chews through men by summoning skeletons, then it scraps together its own bones like it's got an endless supply. Then Shadow 3 tore in with 3 straight hits. And now this monster is totally drained of mana, no strength left to keep fighting. And just like that, everything starts shattering, breaking into a bunch of pieces. Before the sorcerer can even catch his breath, he slams in another Shadow 3 attack. Then the black mist shudders, fades fast, and loses its power to summon skeletons or regenerate. The monster starts collapsing, cracking apart into a storm of fragments. At this point, it can only lash out with desperate, all-or-nothing attacks. So Magnus unleashes the stone-free ability. He skids across the ground and shrugs off the whole thing, saying it all ends up as nothing more than a dumb monster. With a cocky grin, he unleashed the Stone 3 spell. He hurled a storm of rocks at the boss, then its face shattered into nothing. The creature drops to the ground in a snap, drained dry, no mana left in it at all. With a grin blazing across his face, the boy shoots his arm up and calls it victory. Then he cranks up his magic power, spirit, dexterity, and reflexes, and right when he hits level 30, new strength floods in. Tougher resistance, brighter holy power, and faster, sharper agility. Buzzing with excitement, he blurts out that after smashing the bone dragon, he finally unlocked the spirit level and hit level 30 at last. Then he drops the bombshell. He finally snagged the rare prize he needed, the bone dragon's object, the dead dragon's scepter, rank S, and as he sinks onto the bed, he can't help thinking. Yep, the higher you climb, the more brutal the next stages hit. Once he hits level 30, legendary masters take over, and he can't help but wonder if there's a faster way to level up. Bone dragons can't be grown or cultivated at all, and for skeleton soldiers, he'd have to smash 10 million of them just to level up again. Lying on the bed, he groans that this is nothing but a total disaster. Clutching the book, he declares he has to crush the side quests first, because that's how he stacks up the rewards. The book lays it all out. The whole mission is simple: wipe out Demon King Morphit. Other quests throw you into wild side missions that pop up right along the road. Right here inside the book, he spots a whole menu of side quests: wipe out vampires, grab potions, and stack wins left and right. He counts how many lives the Demon King is about to crush, then steels himself, one rescue at a time. He won't stop until every last one is safe. By doing this, you'll rake in rewards and rack up experience as you push forward. At the Narcissus mansion, Eugene explodes with rage, snapping, "Tell me, why can't I take the mission items?" He says those flowers weren't needed at all, and that a true good-hearted person had already been carrying out that quest. This is Narcissus, he grins and says, "That's why we finished the flower experiment so fast." Eugene slammed his hand on the table and snapped that it took a ton of effort for a busy warrior like him to get his hands on those things. Fuming, Eugene snaps that it was them who completely forgot about the quests in the first place. During the cave exploration, Hild told him they never would have carried it with them. Distraught, he snaps into panic and starts grilling himself, who dared to steal his quest. With a grin, the man leans in and says it was the legendary sorcerer Magnus. When the warrior hears that, his mind instantly snaps into full panic. Without a moment of restraint, the warrior snarls that Magnus is useless, and the man of classes fires back, insisting it's totally not what he just heard. With eyes like blades, he tells her this: magmas aren't just spectacular, they also burn with way more efficiency. Eugene slams the table, swearing no sorcerer could ever be stronger than a warrior. Then the guy just tells him to go apologize for saying that. Rage still burning, Eugene slams the table again, snarling at the man to shut up and insisting a warrior has no business apologizing. When Ms. Tantrum stormed in, his whole group shot up, worried, and the man's patience started to snap fast. Sword in hand, the man growls that Eugene's an idiot for clinging to the warrior class and presses him on whether he even understands what's coming next, while the fighter watches, fuming, because it's the same disaster again, and ever since Magnus walked out, this kind of chaos has happened every single day. But the man with the glasses lanes in and challenges the warrior. Does he really mean to intimidate a student sworn in as the 7th generation of the loyal La Custa? He suggests you tell the big boss what's going on and ask Eugene if he's really okay with it. And there he is. Eugene is left completely stunned. Laughing, the man tells the warrior to cool off, and Eugene quickly throws an apology at Narcissus. Eugene says if it was only a joke, then it's not a problem at all. But the man suddenly bursts into laughter, laughing his head off in front of an irritated warrior. Trembling with nerves, the warrior blurts out his thanks to Narcissus for understanding him. Eugene looks totally rattled, like he's scared out of his mind, and the fighter can only hope this hits hard enough that Eugene learns from it, because if he finally changes his ways, things have to get better. After a while, the warrior storms off, completely fuming, and hurls curses at Narcissus under his breath. At that exact moment, a little boy sprints down the street and crashes into the warrior, then rage explodes in his face. Rage explodes in Eugene's chest as he hurls a kick straight into the boy's stomach. The kid drops to the ground, and the fighter barrels over to help him right away. He grabs him, spots the boy has passed out, and yells for Hill to kick in her healing power. But a crowd of people quickly gathers, staring at that miserable wreck like they can't look away. Eugene, was it really his doing, or is he the warrior the world has been waiting for, the one meant to save everything? One guy snaps that Eugene is always swiping their armor, and another can't stop asking if he got mistaken for a real thief. Then they explain their sister, who works at a restaurant, heard the exact same story, and even named a crew of warriors who stuffed themselves without paying, racking up a debt. Eugene suddenly lunges at a trial for no reason, and before long everyone's freaking out. Are warriors really meant to do good deeds and help people? Then someone jumps in, praising Magnus like he's the best guy around for exactly that. They shout that his potion saved their wife, and a young girl chimes in that her mom can't stop thanking him. She claims he didn't just beat the dark dragon, he tore the one living in the Megaro's mind straight out of him. Someone else claims the Majesty offered Magnus a noble title, then Magnus flat out refused because he's already marching toward the Demon Kingdom to crush it, no matter who he's supposed to serve. Right then the whole crowd starts to question it. Was Magnus the real hero all along, not the so-called warriors? Seeing all of it, Misha jolts with shock, because after they kicked Magnus off the team, he didn't stop, and somehow he kept stepping up to help so many people. She admits she went too far with him, and joy rushes in because he's been helping so many people. Then, boom, Eugene shows up and flat out declares that no mage in the world can ever outmatch a warrior. Rage shaking through him, he declares he's better than Magnus, and swears he'll make the whole world know it. Hatred burns in his eyes, and a tidal wave of rage crashes around him. As he pats the injured kid's hair, the fighter leans in and thinks, maybe this is it, Eugene finally has the spark he's been missing. Meanwhile, Narcissus lights up with gratitude, thanking everyone for what they've done. And the way the protagonist says, I should be the one thanking you, hits hard, because finishing these missions doesn't just help others, it's literally solving problems for tons of people. While they're talking, Narcissus casually drops the bomb that the warrior crew already marched out of the city to take down Durban Volt. Hearing that, the boy's sweat starts pouring as panic grips him. This monster is the dreaded Cursed General, living high in the mountain of death on the Lacosta border, and he's also one of Demon King Morphite's 8 demon generals, locked in at level 40. As they gear up, the men insist it has to be real, and they fire off a warning. These warriors are a problem for everyone, and swear they'll end it all in just 3 days. After hearing that, the boy's stomach drops. He's convinced Eugene is a fool. This demon can lock 2 people into a binding spell, and it only snaps shut on anyone below level 32. Seeing his level is only 32, he knows he should grind a few side quests, but the way he's standing right now makes him doubt he'll be ready, and then it hits him. This crew is walking straight into a suicide mission. After wrestling with it in his head, the boy shuts his mouth and goes completely still. He planted his hands on the table, and the truth hit hard. If they're going to get annihilated, all he can do is pray for them and keep moving. As long as they're still alive and trading blows right now, he can still reach them and save them. Why would he do it after everything this group has put him through, after all the pain they've carved into him? He snaps back to silence again, totally lost on what to do next. Magnus swore he'd head there once he hit level 34, but he's nowhere near it yet, and now he's stuck wondering if he dares to charge in and fight anyway. He wipes his face with his hand, frustration surging as he freezes, no idea what he's supposed to do next. He mutters, cursing himself as if he's the biggest fool alive. He spins away and bolts out, apologizing to Narcissus for his rudeness, then blurts that an emergency is calling, and the bespectacled man fires back, asking if he's truly heading there. The boy blurts out that it sounds completely ridiculous, but right now it's stuck in his mind like a song he can't stop hearing. Seeing that, the top of the class freezes in pure disbelief, and can't even find the words to speak. Shattering the silence, he snaps that he'll be waiting for the boy once the monster's down, and then he grins, I'm 35, so I can tell you all about this hero stuff tomorrow. The boy nods and says, yeah, but I can't stand alcohol, and the man shoots back, I never figured a sorcerer would have that kind of weakness. Then the boy blurts, sorry, I was just messing with you. Right then, the man in the classes leans in and drops the bomb. He has a tool that can help Magnus with his nightly act. He lifts the tool into view and tells him, I'm handing you the family treasure, the flying carpet, so you can reach your destination in a flash. Magnus sees the gift and right then and there thanks him, because the debt is real. As he hefts the gift, he mutters that he'll thank Narcissus later, and then he hammers the pace, thinking he can finally catch up to Eugene's Team 3 if he keeps this sprint going. He keeps telling himself this is how he'll rescue his old companions, but he can't shake the question. How's he even supposed to survive the fight against the most terrifying enemy he's ever faced? Welcome to the fortress of Durban Volt, the enemy's deadliest stronghold right now. Then the sorcerer storms straight into the fortress. He strides in with calm confidence, then halts right in front of the statue. The book swears the scariest monsters here are hiding between levels 10 and 13, so he decides to slice through every monster in each area first, then charge straight ahead. After unleashing brutal destruction inside the fortress, he barrels on, refusing to stop and pushing deeper along his path. As he strides through the halls, he can't shake the feeling that he's stumbled into a labyrinth, like these corridors all blend into the same twisted maze. He whips his head around and spots traps stacked everywhere, then his mind races. Can he find a way to detect them before they snap shut? He cracks open the book and right away, he realizes it was never going to be a problem at all. It spills the secrets to spot traps before they snap and uncover every hidden element hiding in plain sight. Then he rips his weapon back and slams it into the wall. He heard that weird noise and his instincts screamed, "It's coming, this thing could be right here." Hand planted on the wall, he slings a burning wish for glory to Durban Sama. Then, like the world itself is holding its breath, a secret passage swings open. Because it's a secret passage, it'll slash the travel time and get you their way faster. Then he catches it, glory to Durban Sama, and the password hits him like pure arrogance. The moment he slips into the secret passage, he finally meets what's guarding it, the mithril golem, level 26. Staring down the monster, he realizes it's got maximum magical resistance, absolute nightmare fuel for any sorcerer. So he grabs Gladius to fight through his weakness and shouts at the robot bear, "Attack the monster now." It charges in hard, but even with all that power, it stumbles a little as it pushes forward. Because that monster is insanely strong. Right then, the wizard blasts his magic, boosting his defense, resistance, speed, dexterity, holy protection, and even pumping up his robot bear's strength. Mithril suddenly drives a clean punch straight into the bear's face, which manages to resist, so he snaps into action and launches a counterattack. They slam into a furious fight, trading hits with perfect balance. Magnus decides to help and blasts armor penetration, level 4 freezing power, right through Mithril. That bear shrugs off magic like it's nothing, so the only move that makes sense is the spell that crawls the monster's legs, slowing its every move. Staring at the Guardian, he realizes it now looks exactly like an ice golem. With the monster trapped in ice, Gladius pounces on the opening and ends it for good. He drove a brutal kick straight into the Guardian's torso, smashing clean through the center. After that crushing blow, the hero can't help but get pumped about his pet. He spots a mountain of mithril ore he's racked up, and suddenly he realizes it could be exactly what he needs for something big. Grinning, he says he figured nothing less from the boss, because every one of these items is downright rare. With his level 3 magical bag, he can scoop up tons of items wherever he goes. He pats his own shoulder and reassures himself, the side quest is finally done. After that brutal fight, they clamber up the fortress stairs, step by step, pushing forward with pure momentum. As they scale the fortress, the hero blurts out that it's got 6 floors. After a while, they're finally standing on the 5th floor of the Durban fortress. But the hero spots something seriously off. He stares at the floor and spots a skull emblem, then, before he can breathe, someone comes charging in with a sword. Eugene blurts out why Magnus is here, and the kid answers fast, too fast, like he's been caught and can't help but admit it. Arms crossed, the protagonist booms that he's here to crush Durban, and the fighter fires back, saying the goal matches his too, then demanding where the rest of the team is. Magnus fires back that he doesn't have a single teammate from that team. He slaps his hand onto the bear, declares its name is Gladius, and hints it might be his team companion. His old crew shows up expecting the whole crew, but seeing only Magnus here blows them away. The boy smirks and says he knew his team would hit him with that, then vows to keep marching on his own path. But then the daughter snaps out, calling his name and begging him to wait. On her knees in a prayer-like pose, she begs Magnus to let the mask join their crew and fight at their side. She declares, dead serious, Durban Vanity isn't just some villain. He's an enemy to all humanity, so they need to team up and take him down right now. She even urges him to crawl back to his old team, but Eugene shuts that idea down fast. Right then, his daughter leans in and begs, "Can you really make my wish come true?" The whole crew stares in shock, but the protagonist just stands there, watching it all unfold. He lifted one finger, shut it down fast, and told them he'd say no, no way he was joining, and absolutely no reason to follow. This reply drives Eugene absolutely insane, who starts trembling with rage. After that, the protagonist declares he's done talking and heads out, but Eugene snaps, calling him back mid-stride. With a manic grin, he blurts out to the sorcerer, "Do you know where you're standing?" Eugene leans in and tells you this pattern pops up everywhere throughout this 5th floor. He fires off a warning that Magnus is seconds from disaster with traps, bosses, and every nasty hazard closing in. Then, out of nowhere, he slams a button. He triggered some kind of brutal trap. The moment our protagonist steps forward, the floor drops out from under him like the world just swallowed an endless pit. Cackling like a madman, the warrior roars that no sorcerer could ever beat him, and warns Magnus to pay close attention. The hero tumbles deeper and deeper into the pit without end, while his former companion's cruel laughter keeps echoing around him. Down at the trap's bottom, Magnus looks totally fine, then he leans in and starts scanning the space above him. He's finally figured it out. Eugene just pulled one over on him, and this time he can't deny it. As the sorcerer scrambles to slip away, he mutters that the ladies jammed the structure earlier, and the traps never even twitched. Racing to save the day, he spots the magical object he needs, the one that can take down Durban. The sorcerer grits his teeth, lunges with everything he's got, and hurls the object into the pit. Boom. Meanwhile, right at the very top of the fortress, in the throne room above everyone else, Durban cheers the crew for how far they've made it, and then, rage crackling in the genius's eyes, he snaps that there's zero reason to praise a monster like this. The boss shoots back, insisting he truly believes they've earned what's coming to them. He clocks a level 22 warrior and priestess, spots a level 20 fighter next, and then, last but not least, finds a level 19 hero. He snaps that he can't wrap his head around how a bunch of people he considers insignificant ever managed to get here, and launch those genius-made charges straight at the monster, only for his sword to get obliterated, shattering into pieces in an instant. Stunned, he can only stand there, trembling in place. Then the monster erupts in laughter, sneering at his pathetic sword. The warrior snaps back, insisting this is the fire sword forge made by Lacusta's #1 blacksmith. But the monster closes in and whips out a flick, one quick strike, and bam, it hammers the warrior so hard he gets launched into the air. Even after a measly flick, the group collapses into chaos, and that genius gets launched into the air like he's weightless. The whole crew freezes in terror, staring at the scene like it just stole their breath. The blow hits so hard that the hero gets yanked across the ground like he's weightless. He slams into the wall, raking the floor as sparks fly and dust explodes. Right then, the blacksmith strides up and promises, "I'll heal the hero right now." He snatches her wrist and snaps, insisting they have to run right now. He declares that only Hild is left, and says they've all gotta break out together right now. Michelle gasped in shock, swearing she never would have guessed he'd be such a coward. As the warrior dashes away, the monster erupts into laughter, shouting that being a hero is nothing but a cruel joke. The group's newest member, right there with Misha, fell into pure devastation after everything that happened. With everything shifting, the monster snaps that it's done with the talking. Now it's their turn to be enjoyed. They're left completely baffled because they have no clue what that creepy promise even means. Right then, the monster yanks its hand out of its armor and thrusts it closer, saying it's sick of entertaining itself in silence, and now it's here to use them. Right then, it's zeroed in on the group's brand new member. Staring at her face, you can see the shock hit instantly. Then the monster booms, "You can't dodge my invisible strike, and I'm at least level 32. Horrified, she pleads, "Stop right now," begging like her life depends on it. Misha gapes at the disgusting scene from way too far away, trapped in helpless silence with no power to stop it. She froze, unable to move, as that giant hand lunged toward her. As the hand mirrors, she stumbles backward, shaking hard, until her back slams into a pillar. Leaving her with no choice but to beg for help, that terrifying demon voice cuts through the air and reminds her, resisting is pointless, like it already said. Tears streaking down her face, she shakes with fear, shuts her eyes tight, and begs the world to send anyone, to save her. Right then, the hero slams through the door like a storm breaking loose. Shock hits her as she finally sees it. Magnus showed up, and he came to rescue her. The demon's curiosity sparks, and it demands to know what this is. Then it spots the level 32 sorcerer and freezes. It vows to break this boy and turn him into its loyal servant. So he's promising that Lacusta's whole half of the kingdom will belong to him, lock, stock, and crown. Before it even crosses his mind, the hero shoots the idea down immediately. After the rejection hits, the demon erupts into uncontrollable laughter. It hints that the boy will finally feel just how terrifying the demon is, then be hit with the exact same question again. The hero stares it down and says, they're scared because that demon drops its terrifying words in their faces every single day. Durban straight up admits he's got mad respect for the boy's courage. Right then, it unleashes its power and lashes out with a strike straight at the boy. As soon as the dust settles, the protagonist clocks the whole situation and understands it. His opponent already knew he was level 32, so it's driving in with direct hits using its own body. Suddenly, the robotic bear Gladius bursts in to help him. With a grin, the boy declares, "This is exactly what I figured Basil would bring for the craftsman." He checks the encyclopedia and realizes Ruben's left side is totally defenseless against fire. With iron determination, he set out to create a level 4 fire tornado. He swears that once he maxes his stats, he'll finally unleash his weak, turning it into something unstoppable. He unleashed dark magic through the staff, bending its magical power to his will. The villain's hand gets swallowed whole by roaring flames. With total confidence, the protagonist declares, "I can beat you," and charges forward for another brutal attack. The monster's hand gets utterly wiped out, its HP vanishes completely. Misha's jaw drops as she blurts out how insane it is, and the demon finally admits the boy's magical attack is no joke. The protagonist shoots back that there's no reason to be shocked. With a killer dramatic pose, he yanks something wild out of his magical pouch. Right then, the monster's left hand snaps back to life. This zombie hero's scepter can wrestle control of brand new corpses and kick them back as undead, once, though it guzzles massive MP, and even then the undead can't be kept alive. Shocked out of his mind, the demon finally admits he never saw the kid's trump card hiding in plain sight. So the hero finally realizes it. This kind of magic is brutal on MP, and a normal sorcerer would burn out long before they could keep it going. Misha can handle it for a whole week with zero problems, then she rockets her hand straight toward the monster. Right then, the demon snaps that it's got zero time left for the weak ones. He shoots his own hand to meet the revived one head-on, and they smash together with a brutal surge of power. Watching everything unfold, the hero realizes these monsters are evenly matched, and he tells you to hold back for now, don't step in yet. Right here, he supercharges the bear, turning up its power, making it tougher, and sharpening its speed and agility. He boosted his power, hardened his defenses, and sharpened his agility. The hero's strike hits so cleanly that it obliterates the demon's original hand to nothing. Then he fires off a level 4 freezing move, saying he was ready for this, and that the real weakness in his right hand is ice. Right then, he fires up the magical scepter's power, and the right hand starts waking up again, like it's coming back to life. Right now, Pardongerista controls both his left and right hands, and he's grinning. He leans toward Durban and says they're done messing around, time to play for real. Both hands lunge in from separate angles, trying to crush the demon, yet somehow the beast gets pinned in place, left with nowhere to break through. It snaps back with pure frustration, insisting there's no way this can be true, and that he's nothing more than an ordinary human. He didn't even listen to the demon. He slammed his light power into attack mode, tripling its boost and pushing the success rate way higher. Before it could even catch its breath, he slams down another spell. He unleashes a fully customized level 4 lightning strike, and it slams straight into the demon with zero mercy. Fuming with rage, the demon launches a full power strike, determined to make its enemy pay. Magnus snaps that Cursed General isn't just a fancy name, and the demon growls, warning him not to underestimate that so-called great sorcerer. Misha can't hide her awe. She tells the others it's wild to witness a sorcerer this powerful, and the new guy just chills, saying it feels like a clash between gods. Later on, the demon finally gets wiped out, fully burned, with its HP dropping to 0. Then it starts cackling like crazy, insisting it's hopeless, and that they're straight up wasting their time by challenging the great sorcerer. In pure shock, they can't wrap their heads around it. How is the demon still standing when its HP hits 0? And that throws them straight into the mystery of the immortal siren. The demon sizes them up and spits, "You're all fools," then declares with full confidence that it's far above every human. It rips its own heart out of its chest and stuffs it somewhere hidden. Horrifying everyone. The demon feels his heart still pounding, and that's when he's sure nothing can destroy him. To its shock, Magnus snaps back that he already knows. Watch the demon freeze, utterly baffled. Right then, a flashback erupts, Magnus getting the exact magical item he needed to wipe Durban off the map. In that exact second, he yanks something out of his magical pouch like it's about to change everything. With a sly grin, he demanded, "So this is the demon's heart," and the question left them reeling in pure shock. The demon drops to its knees, begging for its life, pleading with Magnus to spare the item the hero refuses to let go of. Both the girls and the demons are left staring in stunned silence by what's happening. Magnus shuts the demon's apologies out of his mind and hurls the magical item to the ground, blam, shattering it into nothing. The demon disappears in a flash, and the hero exhales in total relief. She bolted toward him and threw her arms around him, breathless as she praised him, because he really did save them and she couldn't stop thanking him. They can't believe it, he really crushed that monster all by himself. Crushed on the dirt, bruised beyond hope, the demon spits through battered lips that it won't die right here. As he storms out of the fortress, the protagonist fires back to the demon's speech like, "Yeah, I know that too." After crushing one of the 8 cursed generals, the hero storms back to La Custa and heads straight for Mars' mansion, where the glasses-wearing kid trots up, asks if Magnus is worn out, and with a grin calls him Sir Hero. Magnus tells them that every time he comes back to the city, a crowd swarms him with thanks, and then one certain someone shoves him to drink past his breaking point. The man says once Magnus locked in on wiping out monsters, more people threw in their weight, so their numbers dropped fast. He realizes it's worked, happier days sweep the kingdom, and every citizen finally knows they owe Magnus everything. Red-faced, the hero blurts that all he wants is to stroll through the city, easy, calm, and unbothered. 5 tense days slam by, and Magnus is still trapped inside the castle of Locusta. He storms into the banquet hall courtyard, right where the chaos is waiting. The hero leans in and tells Arya, "That light saved me, but if I'm honest, I don't feel like I belong here at all." A flashback rips open, people crowd in to thank Magnus for everything, leaving him utterly baffled, and then Arya steps in, thanking him for his words, saying he's not just respected, he's truly an honor. Magnus heaps praise on her, calling her incredible, and she shoots back that she hasn't exactly done anything extraordinary, saying you should be damn proud of everything he's pulled off. Both of them start to blush, and Arya blurts out that his face looks way too pale. She's all sweet as she tells him, "If you want to rest, lay your head on my lap," and boom, he blurts out a ton of mana potion. Responding, Magnus grins, says he's fine, but won't risk staining her dress, because she looks drop-dead gorgeous. Once Arya hears that compliment, her whole face lights up, flustered, giddy, and shaking with happiness. Suddenly, Michelle shows up out of nowhere, shouting for Magnus, and letting him know she'd already figured out he was there. Arya clocks the words she overheard, then glances down at her impossibly fancy dress like she's about to walk straight into trouble. As she steps in, Arya flashes a smile and shrugs. I don't even know who she is, but Magnus looks totally at ease, so Arya figures she can come back for this later. Arms crossed tight, Misha snaps that she refuses to abandon him like this. The two of them crash into a full-blown showdown, with the protagonist right in the middle. Misha shoots Arya a sharp question, who does she think she is? And Arya answers, cool as ice, I'm Arya of the Marquette Mullen family, then swings it right back, so, who do you think you are? The fighter snaps back that she may have been on the same team as Magnus, then introduces herself, Amisha. Arya grins and says, oh, I remember you because you treated Magnus so brutally. Misha snaps, irritated, admitting she regrets her earlier words, but asking if she'll really get forgiveness just because she suddenly feels bad. Now Misha turns to Magnus and blurts that after she walked away, she finally realized. They only made it out because he stayed right there with them. She straight up admits they messed up and pours out a real, heartfelt apology. Arya snaps that Magnus doesn't have to listen to her, but Misha fires back that it's none of Arya's business. Then Arya drops the bomb. She's Magnus' fiancé, and Misha's world instantly shatters. Ripping through the silence, Magnus roars that he finally gets it. He forgives Misha, and then he adds, loud and clear, that it's his kind heart doing the talking. With a hand on Arya's shoulder, Magnus leans in and tells her the truth. This wasn't just Misha's suffering, Eugene mistreated him too. He finally fesses up that he never truly wanted to be stuck in that group. It took him forever to understand why, and he won't just dump all the blame on Misha. Annoyed out of her mind, Arya snaps that she gets it. She basically says, that's so Magnus, and then adds with total confidence that she knows him way too well. She halts her foot mid-step and snaps, it's fine. She strides up to him and snaps that his attitude will keep slamming him with trouble, so she's vowing to stay right beside him, every step of the way. The blonde proudly declares that, being the daughter of Locusta's mightiest company, she makes profit and loss feel like a joke. After hearing that, the hero beams, thanks her for every word, and swears that her standing by his side is all he ever needs. Misha turns around and he finally tells her, straight to her face, that he forgives her. Blushing hard, Misha flashes a nervous smile and blurts out a thank you for that. Out of nowhere, the king of Locusta thundered in, announcing he'd come looking for the hero. He tells them they can't kick things off without the main guest, then shouts for Magnus. But then boom, someone barges in and orders his majesty, stay back from that man. It's Tenzin, captain of the Imperial Knights, while Eugene hangs back in the background, watching like this is about to explode. With a roar, the captain blurts to his majesty that this Magnus, Durban Volt, has arrived. Flinching back, Magnus can't help but stare at Jane and Hild, because something about the way there screams they're plotting, and he feels it. Eugene shoots Magnus a sharp question. Why is he so pale? Did someone expose his identity? But Magnus just shrugs and says he's only tired, that's all. Magnus tells the king that Eugene chased fame, threw down against the demon, and got completely wiped. Because he's a total coward who ditched his own companions when it mattered most. He hammers the king with a warning, "Don't you dare get played by Eugene's smooth talk." Eugene then fires back, asking how someone like him could possibly be the enemy. Magnus laughs it off, until he clocks that Eugene's right beside Tenzin, and suddenly it's seriously dangerous. Tenzin hammers it home, says the king truly bought the hero's story, and swears Magnus is Durban Vanudi, sneaking in under a disguise and leaving zero room for doubt. Then the knight pushes an idea, have His Majesty use the hereditary evaluation skill to read Magnus, so the king nods, raises the power, and starts scanning the boy. The king's jaw drops to the floor. Magnus has reached level 36, and the shock turns into pure horror. According to the encyclopedia, there are humans who have gone past level 30, but that secret is something only the protagonist knows. Magnus remembers the king's rule in the imperial court. Only sorcerers level 17 and up get his powers, and he'd never, ever swallow the idea that a human could be above level 30. At that exact moment, Misha bursts in and declares she saw Magnus smash the demon with her own eyes. Jolting a finger at Eugene, she snaps that only he's lying. Then the knight shoots back that her words sound downright weird. Eugene snaps curses at Misha, yelling that she got played by the demon. Then the nun launches into a 500-word hymn praising Magnus and flat-out declares that everyone will finally know who to trust. She says doubting him is just like doubting Tagon's divine word. Right then, a bunch of people locked onto her, staring like they couldn't look away. Magnus steps up and snaps at them, "Stop this farce right now." He calls out the mite for cheating the clueless hero, but insists that handling a mage is anything but simple. The knight snaps at the king to order Magnus to hunt the monster down, but Magnus fires back, saying the exact opposite. He jabs a finger at Tenzin and declares, loud and fearless, that Tenzin is the real monster. Magnus explains this cursed process like a nightmare spell. Once those generals get wiped out, they don't just die, they seize the body of whoever could rise as the next leader, and this time that target was Tenzin. He tells you that right when the cursed general was on the brink of death, its soul lunged into Tenzin, snapping him into a monstrous form and unleashing insane power. It ends with one chilling truth: Tenzin traded his soul to the demon. Fuming, Tenzin snaps at Magnus to stop dumping lies. So the mage cuts the debate short and offers a simple dare: he'll prove the truth right here. At that exact moment, Magnus slams Storm into play. Tenzin got hit by a bolt of lightning aimed straight at him. Eugene bolts in sheer panic, refusing to let death catch him. After the hit lands, Tenzin's body is brutally burned, but he still refuses to fall, staying on his feet like pure willpower. And then bursts into uncontrollable laughter. It scares everyone around him into stunned silence, everyone except Magnus, who saw this coming the whole time. From inside the armor, a slimy monster starts crawling its way out, and the moment the protagonist sizes it up, he snaps that its magic power clocks in at 271. He points out that taking down Durbanwald, who's sitting pretty at level 40, won't be easy until he levels up a little more. And then he laughs and lets it slip. When he shoves his stats past the breaking point, he's sitting on an absurd ocean of magical power, and with a manic grin, the monster declares, "All right, now I'll show you what I can do." In the open square, the thing needles Magnus, gloating that humans will never climb to that height, or ever earn stats like that, not in a million tries. All around, the protagonist feels his grip slip as he watches, and the boy finally gets it. The monster isn't attacking, it's playing. This is Tenzin Durbanwald, level 40, and when Magnus rips his staff free, the hero braces and goes straight into the fight. But the monster barrels in fast, and its right arm slams down like a killing blow. Barely able to breathe, the protagonist slams into the attack, and gets rocked by an earth-shattering blow that nearly knocks him out. The moment the nearby crowd hears the clash, they scream it's a demonic beast, then panic hits and they all bolt while the hero stays down on the ground. With agony ripping through him, he begs Arya to bolt, right now, get out fast. And she tells him with a smug little smile that it was exactly the smart move, just like she knew he'd do. When he realizes it's a monster that's inherited Durbanwald's power, the hero snaps to the truth. This is where the second round kicks off. A remorseful king confesses to Magnus that he regrets ignoring his warnings, and Magnus just smiles back, saying it's a good thing he got captured. He yells for Misha and orders her to haul the cane somewhere safe. Then she blurts, "Are you sure it's okay for you to fight by yourself?" Magnus shoots back that he came with 0 weapons. The boy fires off a demand. Even counting the price of his life, you still have to give everything to carry out your duties. With grit in her eyes, she nods and agrees. She scoops the king into her arms and vows, face to face, that she'll guard him with her life, so he can stay locked in on the battle. She clamps down on him tight and bolts out of there fast. Grinning, the hero declares that this is it. Now he can finally zero in on the monster. He glanced sideways, said it was crystal clear, then turned to Eugene and demanded to know what he thought he was doing. Then Eugene bursts in, gripping his sword in a totally different way than the protagonist, like he's ready to make a move. Brandishing his blazing battle sword, Eugene snaps at Magnus to stop pretending. Then Magnus, arms crossed, fires back with a smug grin. If a whole team just turned into monsters, then of course Eugene should go fight them. Rage blazing in his chest, Eugene barrels into Magnus and blasts him with accusations of pure arrogance. Magnus grips his staff and swings. He clocks Eugene right in the face. The hit lands like a cannon blast. He spits, then the impact slams him away and sends him soaring through the air. Eugene gasps in disbelief, yelling that there's no way a sorcerer can hold his own in close combat. Then Magnus calmly hits back. Sure, he's a sorcerer, but he's level 36, and no hero under level 20 could ever beat him. Magnus shoots Eugene a commanding look and snaps that it's time to know his place. Eugene fires back that Magnus has no right to talk with that kind of arrogance. Eugene lunges in with a flaming sword and swears a hero will always outclass a sorcerer, but Magnus just slips aside, snaps back fast, and lands brutal hits on Eugene's hand and leg. Rage spilling from his chest, Eugene storms in recklessly, screaming for Magnus to die. At that exact moment, the protagonist spots Eugene sprinting toward him and realizes something is seriously off. The priestess crouches behind Eugene and whips her magic around him like a trap. With wide eyes, Magnus blurts, "Wait, what are you doing?" and then hits her with the brutal truth. "Tell me you know you just sold your soul to a demon, right?" She tells him Eugene was picked by the gods to be the hero, and that it all had to be the will of Tenzin-sama. She decides her only job is to stand by him, and Magnus can't help but sneer inwardly. She's nothing but a religious fanatic. The Cairo admits this makes things messy, but he insists it's still doable, just with these two. Then it hits him, there's no way he can take them on and still fight Tenzin at the same time. When you look back, you realize how loud his presence is in that area. He drags the memory back and recalls telling everyone that Durban Volt wouldn't go down that easy, and that the attack would hit right in the middle of the banquet. This search makes one thing crystal clear: move carefully or their whole plan collapses. He realizes there's still a way to win if he grabs this moment, and right then Arya leans in, asking how she can help. Right now she yanks off a cover sheet, and there, revealed in all its glory, is Gladius. A hulking robot bear slams into Eugene at full speed, freezing him in place with pure terror. While Eugene is busy, Magnus finally turns his full attention to taking on Tenzin. Demon right in front of him, he slams his shock punch with his thunderstrike power, blasting the air with pure lightning fury. Magnus gets blindsided, realizing that if he keeps pushing, he'll be walking straight into a losing spot. Knowing you might have to pull his trump card when things get ugly. A figure bursts out of the mist and tells him point blank to quit. They warn him straight up, surrender if you want to save your fiancée. Reeling from that bombshell, he fires off questions. Would Frigga really sink this low already? And then, in anger and disbelief, he starts calling her a demon. Laughing, Frigid spits that every move they make is God's will. Then, right on cue, Misha comes sprinting after Arya. Rage boiled over her and she spat curses at Freyja. Then undead bodies slammed into her path, and Freyja calmly said she'd been thinking about this for a long time. She outright declares that Misha is a total fool. She kept throwing accusations at her, claiming she was trying to tempt the hero at every turn, yet the fighter swore she'd never once thought of Eugene like that. Looking back, Magnus watches a colossal tornado barrel into the sky, forming right in front of him. This is the rare power of a hero, called the awakening of armament. With a grin on his face, Eugene blurts out that it's obvious, someone's seconds away from dying. Figure out what charges they're gonna pin on Gladius. You're yelling that you'll boot him out of the way, spitting bastard like it's venom. A brutal strike comes flying straight at Gladius, and he doesn't move an inch. A flashback hits, Magnus leans in and grills Bezelf about the time they met Gladius, and somehow everything gets fixed just in time for the 5-day banquet. The dwarf snaps that he can't go any farther, but Magnus pleads with him to listen. Gladius has survived so many brutal trials. Magnus tells everyone that Gladius helped him level up in battle, and calls him an absolute lifesaver of a companion. Right now, Eugene explodes forward and smashes Gladius to pieces with one brutal sword strike. When Magnus saw it, he didn't say a word, he just stayed locked in, silently watching every detail. Arya begs Magnus, "Don't you worry about me," while Misha interrogates Eugene and Ryuji, pressing hard, "Aren't you ashamed of what you did?" Meanwhile, the sorcerer stays deadly quiet, saying not a word. Staring at the shattered remains of his old companion, Magnus wrestles with what it truly takes to become a sorcerer. He remembers the one thing the Academy's founder told him back when it mattered most. Don't let disgust claw its way in. Once it takes over, you'll lose your nerve and you'll stop being a sorcerer. Clutching his staff like it's sacred, he vows that he's lived by this rule for his entire life, until now. Rage tearing through him, he drives a brutal punch straight into Eugene's face on the move. No mercy, no second chances. The strike rattles everyone in the area, and it hits so hard it can take Eugene down. Nailing orders Ryuji to murder the girl and make that idiot pay for everything she's done. But the sorcerer sneers and declares, only fools will foot the bill for this. Whipping around to Ryuji, Magnus spots 3 colossal mountains looming ahead. At that moment he barks the order to rise, and everyone starts scrambling, desperate to know what Magnus's secret trump card is. Out of nowhere, a colossal robot slams into the scene. The sight unleashes pure terror in the room, so much that even Eugene and Ryuji stumble mid-step. This is the zombie of Durban Volt, and Eugene can't even breathe, because what he's seeing and wonders aloud has him staring, pale as a ghost. Miss Hutt, completely stunned, peppered Magnus with rapid-fire questions. How on earth could there be a zombie version of Durban Volt when Magnus had already crushed him? Arya steps away from the nun and tells her, straight up, that this is Magnus Sano's trump card. After Magnus crushed the demon, she spills the truth. He grabbed the zombie dragon's scepter and blasted Durban Volt into an undead servant. Misha's jaw drops. She blurts out, Magnus, do you even realize how insane it is for a human to pull off something that huge and burn that much MP in the process? Arya tells him that Magnus has been grinding through relentless strain, channeling mana nonstop, and he's been paying for it every second for all this time. When Mission hears that, it hits hard. Magnus has to trust the Arya for real, because nobody else can do it. Frigida snatches at Arya's wrist, and right then Magnus explodes, warning her not to lay a filthy hand on his fiancée. Behind Ryuji, the zombie demon explodes forward and lunges at Frigga. One brutal hit, and Frigga gets launched into the air like a wrecking ball. With one brutal strike, she crumples to the ground, shattered beyond repair. Seeing that, Magnus shoots off a quick remark. Frigga's lucky she even thought to do it. Because there's no way she's going to stand there and watch the massacre about to explode. Hit with power that huge, Buji freezes solid with terror, and Eugene panics, screaming out why the demon of Durban Volt is here, and why the demons are actually taking orders from Magnus. Then the boy blurts out that it was him who'd been staking his claim, and that this demon is the real identity he's been fighting for, because he's sure he's ready to smash him. The warrior stares back, baffled about why he'd let those 10s slip out before, and the demon just stays stone-cold silent. With the cedar clutched in his hand, Kira declares that he'll repent for his own stupidity and beg forgiveness for every sin. Shoving the diamond straight at Eugene. When that demon rushes toward him, Eugene goes rigid with terror and pisses his pants. Then he drops to his knees and pleads for his life, swearing they're comrades, travel buddies who have been side by side. But Magnus shoots back, no, they're done, and they're not coming back. And that's when the warrior makes a promise. He won't get in the boy's way again, and Eugene, trembling with fear, throws himself into desperate pleas, begging for mercy. Hearing that plea, the protagonist shoots back that he doesn't care about him, not even a little. Right then he spills the truth. Eugene wiped out Gladius and wrecked Wurst's plan to take the kill zone. With pure hatred burning in his eyes, Magnus spits that he'll never forgive him, ever. Trembling and stammering, Eugene blurts out that he's the hero, the one destined to save the world is supposed to be. He warns the sorcerer, if you kill me, the world ends, and I have to stay alive because this duty falls to me. The protagonist snaps that guys like him are scum, and they don't have what it takes to save the world. Right when the zombie demon lunges in for the kill, Eugene barrels ahead and gets completely crushed dead center. And everyone stares in stunned terror. The original demon snarls that Magnus is the one man you absolutely never, ever mess with. Looking back, the protagonist nods at the demon and admits, with a bitter honesty, that he honestly has no idea who he really is. Then he hurled a level 4 lightning spell straight at the monster. The zombie demon charges straight for the original demon as the protagonist grits his teeth and declares he's not backing down. And to make this possible, he has to pay for the original demon's sins, atoning for them with everything he's got. Right then, the zombie demon lunges in and clamps onto the monster. The smiling boy nods and grins, saying, yeah, that was amazing, and I think it ends right here. He cranks up his fedfold power, then rockets straight at one target, stacking damage faster with every hit. With raw power blazing and magic crackling, he taps the lightning he's storing in his left arm. His SSS rank evil general rings can gulp energy and stockpile it in the very arm they're strapped to. Spurred to end this tale for good, he unleashes his level 4 Fire Hurricane ability. He yanked power from the storage hidden in his right arm. He cups his hands like a weapon and readies his final, crushing attack, unleashing a storm of lightning straight into the monster. It morphed into a colossal lightning dragon, crackling with raw power. Everyone gasps when fire and thunder magic collide, and that crimson dragon actually shows up like the one straight from the old legends. Right then, he unleashes the combined magic in one crushing blast, triggering the flare, then detonating the explosion ability. The strike hits so hard it ripples through everything, and everyone nearby feels it. Right after that jaw-dropping, earth-shaking hit, a massive cloud of dust explodes up from the ground. When the smoke finally thins, a monstrous crater roars into view from the impact, and the creature that caused it is completely gone. Just as he closes in, the protagonist himself can't believe the twist he's about to find. He hovers right beside a massive crater, staring like it just ripped a hole in the world. He lets out a nervous little comment, insisting, no joke, that he's the kind of person nobody ever dares to mess with. Arya then pulls him into a tight, emotional hug, and the crowd can't help but say, yeah, that was a brutal, heavyweight attack. Freya barrels in and grips Arya's hand again the moment she shows up with the rest from Teen Rocket, and right then, the protagonist shouts for the zombie demon. The demon fires back instantly, clubs Freya with a pipe, and whips her flying again. Later on, an announcement hits. Magnus, the legendary sorcerer, is coming to Lacoste Castle for an audience. The king grabs him with praise, shouting that he saved the kingdom, yet the protagonist waves it off like, nah, it was nothing. Right then, the king straight up tells Magnus, I'm granting you the official title, Demon Hunter of the Locusta Kingdom. By saving his whole kingdom, himself included, he finally wants to reward the hero in a way they'll never forget. He vows full cooperation. Anything the boy needs to take down the Demon King, he'll back it to the hilt. Then everyone erupts in cheers, shouting that he's the legendary sorcerer Magnus, the demon hunter they finally hunted down. The god Tegmo marched away from Eugene, crowned him the hero, and handed him the job of bringing down the demon lord. Then the king of Lacusta stepped in and cranked up Magnus with semi-power and a squad that rivaled Eugene's at every turn. He grins and says this is the kind of achievement he's ridiculously proud of. Right then, the hero grabs her hand and rockets it up toward the sky. That sweeps everyone off their feet with a single, unforgettable gesture. After a while, the protagonist leans in and asks Misha if she'll ever go back to her hometown, and she answers without hesitation. She's been dying to return in triumph ever since she wiped out the demon lord. Then she declares it's time to snap back to reality, because she's got to help everyone crush the demon species. Switching gears, she fires off a question about Eugene, and the protagonists shoot back that he's probably sprinting around, scrambling to escape. With shaking nerves, she blurts that it's wild to see Eugene alive after everything he went through, and she presses, is it because he's the hero? The boy nods and blurts out, yeah, that's why I'm special. He leans in and tells you the hero's hidden power is the reason he can't die, as long as the Demon King is still alive, even if he gets hacked to pieces with 0 HP left. Meanwhile, Eugene snaps at Frigga that getting kicked out makes 0 sense, he's the hero, after all, while the commenters shrug and say it's already a miracle they didn't slap him with the death penalty. Rage flares in the hero's chest as he grills her, then he jabs a finger at the newcomer in cat crowns, and Frigga snaps back that the one there is locked up in prison. Suddenly a grown man shows up and swears that Eugene kicked his child earlier that day. Then someone else throws the accusation at him. He sold his soul to demons and spits out monster like it's a death sentence. A furious crowd surges at the hero, yelling he's not welcome anymore. Then rage flashes in his eyes as he rips his sword from its sheath. The king pulls him into a tight hug and declares, you're the hero, then promises that once they remarry, the mage will show up, and in that instant, the hero snaps back and remembers everything that happened. Clenching his fists, he bolts away. He tells Frigga they have to run, because in a neighboring kingdom they'll be greeted with open arms and he'll finally be honored, and after all, he's still the hero of the story. After everything that went down, Misha snaps that everyone already knows Eugene's crimes, and she admits even she can't shake the guilt for what she's done. Right then, the sorcerer snapped that she never crossed the line, and now all she has to do is set things right, honestly, for everything she's done. He tells Eugene it doesn't matter where she goes anymore, because starting now, only horrors worse than death are waiting for her, and when he hurls a stone, he insists there's nothing they can do to stop it. And this is the perfect way to pay him back for every crime he committed. She dodges the question and fires back, where are you going, Magnus? And he smirks, Ailer Parna, I've already got everything I need. He reaches into his bag and pulls out a jewel drop from Durban Vault, then flashes the certificate from the La Custa Kingdom, proof that whoever holds it gets to tap into all kinds of services inside. At that exact moment, the fighter starts blurting out her farewells, wishing Magnus nothing but luck, and the man fires the sentiment right back. After their farewell, they split off in every direction, no looking back. After a while, the hero reaches Bezerf and rushes up to the dwarf to apologize for losing Gladius, his finest work, only for the dwarf to wave him off and say he shouldn't worry. He revealed that Gladius was a golem forged to guard him, and he's thrilled it carried out its mission to the very end. Then he blurts out that Magnus is a legendary sorcerer. Gladius, he pressed, did he really come through for him? Right then, the sorcerer suddenly remembers every single thing the bear has ever done for him. He nods and admits it'll take him at least a year before he can finally smash the demon, Durban Volt. With a booming laugh, the man nods and agrees with the boy. He presses his hand to the sheet, declares it's solid, then yanks it back, bam, and reveals the boy's shield is what he's handing him next. He explains that this golem was hammered from paired fists, souls, and mythic pure materials, and that's how they birthed Gladius Mkii, the ultimate battle golem. Grinning like he just won, the boy promises it, once again, and calls out to his companion. The man fires back, asking if he's still stuck using that shaky fabric screen, and the protagonist shoots straight back. Wait, was that thing made by Nullside? Crossing his arms, the man snaps, who in the world named it that? And the boy blurts, Nalsai, the owner. Then the bespectacled guy fires back, my name will be carved into history as the one who made it, and this is the reward he's earned. Seeing that, the dwarf leans in and blurts out that this boy is downright one of a kind. Sometime later, in the southern commercial district of the royal capital, chaos and commerce mixed in the air. Right by the central water fountain, the protagonist sits in silence, waiting for the person to finally show up. Arya then shows up and asks, so, have you been stuck here a long time, and was our meeting really supposed to be at noon? The boy points out that she said they'd wait till morning, and still smiling, the woman fires back that she didn't sit there the whole time like he was doing right now. He aligns in and swears, and I waited too, for ages. Arya blurts out that she figured Magnus was waiting, and the kid tells her instincts are crazy good, until Arya cuts him off, insisting it wasn't intuition at all. And breaks it down for you, calling it telepathy, like it's the most mind-blowing thing ever. Head over heels, the man convinces himself he loves her more than anything. Curious, Arya leans in and asks the dwarf if he got totally bored just waiting there. He groans that, yeah, it was a bit boring, but honestly, it wasn't all that bad. He tells her, I'm used to speed fast all the time, and look, even I have to slow down sometimes because that pace catches up to you. She lights up and admits she's been counting down to their first meeting, and while everyone talks shop, she keeps scanning the room too, calling it a rare slice of luxury. Suddenly, the hero drops to his knees like something just ripped the fight out of him. He takes her hands and tells her, I'm heading to Liburna tomorrow, but I'll swing back to the city gate whenever I can. He tells her he'll be slammed that whole time, and she asks, so, can you actually make it to see me once a month? He leans in and says flat out that it just can't be done. He scans the area, shrugs like, it is what it is, and swears that he'll be waiting for her no matter what. He snaps back at her, saying she totally misread it. Telling her she can't be seen more than once a month, he snaps and decides, nope, he's going to see her every single week. Hearing that, she flushes bright red from head to toe. Then embarrassment crashes over her and she blurts out, I love you, and the boy fires back, I love you too. Meanwhile, deep inside the Empire of Alabama. And just like that, an alert blares, warning everyone that the patriotic hero crew is on the move. People were arguing about whether those men were thieves, while others were begging like, if only we had someone like Magnus in our country. He's telling them he's the sorcerer who wiped out that demon and saved the kingdom of La Custa, and now everyone's buzzing about it. Elsewhere, a woman lies all alone in bed, muttering about Magnus the sorcerer, and can't stop wondering what kind of man he really is. The very next day in the kingdom of Alabama, everything feels different the moment the sun rises. When the hero finally storms into the Empire's royal palace audience hall, a brand new arc ignites right on the spot. Magna insists he can't dig into the ancient ruins without authorization, because those secrets don't give up unless the proper powers sign off. But the desert governor, also the king of this kingdom, slams his decision down and says they'll never approve it, never let it happen. The boy blurts out that he even carried an official letter from the kingdom begging for cooperation, but the man erupts in laughter, dismissing Lecusa as just a young kingdom with no real past, claiming the letter is worthless. Then the governor slams his fist and declares, I'm the king, only I can give orders. What? And seeing it, the protagonist's nerves spike, and he goes completely silent. The governor straight up declares, I serve others, and if I must, I'll die for the kingdom's good. So the boy starts grilling him, straight up questioning what he's even talking about. Rage in his voice, the governor declares that he wants the loyal hero party wiped out, and he orders an all-out assault on every vassal merchant he's got beef with. After hearing every last word, the protagonist snaps, No, I'm done. Fuming with rage, the king snaps that they must lock that insolent fool up, right now, immediately. Then multiple arrows slam toward him. A stranger shows up out of nowhere, asks if Magnus is awake, and blurts out an apology for barging in at this insane hour. With a sly smile, the protagonist knew they'd come hunting for him, because this is Prince Haydn and the second princess is speaking. She asks how he could know, and the boy shrugs and says it was just rumors. Then, in his head, he admits he really grabbed it from an encyclopedia. Curious as hell, why are their highnesses even here? They bow deep, apologize, and spill the truth. Their father messed up royally. The boy waves it off, saying there's no need to be so formal, he's just a sorcerer, but the prince shuts him down fast, admitting they read the letter and know he's a demon hunter. Shaking, he blurts out that despite everything, he's still been locked away, and that just can't be forgiven. Once he's freed, the prince snaps that it's still not enough, then pushes him to accept the authority to investigate the ancient ruins he'd asked for. He says it's only a first-class authorization, and the girl shoots back that the emperor can hand out a special class instead. Excited, Magnus laughs it off and says, thanks to his top-tier clearance, he can dig into 99% of the kingdom's ancient ruins, and the girl immediately asks if that means he'll forgive them. He shrugs it off and says, don't worry, just thank yourselves, then promises, anytime you're in trouble, call me, I'll lend you my power. Seeing that, the prince calls in his loyal hero's party, but his sister slams the brakes and stops him. She tells him Magnus has launched on a quest to save the entire world. So don't drag him into the country's internal mess. The prince snaps her agreement, admits she's right, and then throws Magnus an apology for all the unnecessary stuff he'd said. A little later, a man steps in and says, this is awkward, but we've been digging into the depths of those ancient ruins, like the truth is tearing at his pride. He admits his power doesn't match the Emperor's, but promises he'll still throw in everything he's got, and the hero immediately thanks him for it. Grinning to himself, he vows that next time he shows up, he'll definitely put in for the special class authorization. Meanwhile, outside an open cafe in La Costa, Arya leans in and grills her boyfriend. Did he finally get the authorization to investigate the ancient ruins? With a grin on his face, the boy shoots back, yeah, I did. He tells her she's about to get blown away. This kingdom is packed with ancient ruins everywhere, plus unexplored territories nobody's even touched. He also drops the bombshell. The Landista is the magical treasure he's been hunting for. Historical records say this country was once a wild, lush green paradise. Landi stood for ages, and the empire it ruled over. It was drowning the world in magic. Right then, her boyfriend blurts out that, as far as he can tell, more than half of Alibarna is desert, and she can't believe it for a second. The hero lanes in and tells you it all started 50,000 years ago with a massive magical ritual, until it blew up, wrecking an enormous swath of land, turning it into a desert overnight, and trapping the cities that were buried beneath the sand, later remembered only by generic names as the ancient ruins. Right out of nowhere, the terrified boy nervously shifts the conversation, and blurts that she's the only one he's ever loved. But he clamps his jaw shut and bites back the words. His voice shakes as he blurts out, I didn't practice enough, and besides, I'm the only person she loves. They both go beet red, fingers locked together in a shaky, heartbeat-holding grip. Curious out of breath, the girl presses, so what kind of person is Prince Haydn really? The boy cuts in and admits, I'm just shy and humble, like he's defying every expectation anyone would have for a crown prince. Still, the boy fires back, saying it's nothing but a fake mask. Magnus lays it out, this guy runs a crew of thieves, working undercover as part of the Royal Shadow Heroes. That right there, that's Prince Haydn, no doubt about it. Sometime later, deep inside the Alba Adrena Empire in Calva, thousands of people go on with their day, soaking in warm baths as if nothing in the world is about to explode. He bought food and knocked out a bunch of other errands, then strolled through the kingdom, when he couldn't shake the feeling that Ramsay's house had to be right around the corner. A mysterious woman who seems like she's got zero ties asks where everyone's gone, and Bajan from the hero group presses her, right away, about why she's even connected to them. Magnus swoops in and asks her straight up if she needs help. The man snaps that he's an idiot, challenges him to a fight, and the boy shoots back, is there something wrong with that? Bajan tells him, I picked up this skill at level 15, and at level 16, I mastered an even deadlier one. Then the guy who first asked the boy if he was hunting a big opponent like him just stares, waiting for the next move. And with a cruel grin, Magnus taunts him, then asks who cares about any of this in the end. Fuming with rage, Bayesian unleashes his special skill, hot blades, and rockets straight at the protagonist. Magnus doesn't flinch, he starts casting his power like it's already decided. He whipped up a massive fire tornado that blasted the man away like a meteor. Bajan freezes in pure horror, his face is burned to nothing. Grinning like he owns the moment, the protagonist tells them, "This is Fire 4, I snagged it back when I was level 31. Magnus steps up and slams down his identity, I'm a sorcerer. He tells her he's roaming the world to take down the Demon King, save everything, and he needs Ramsay's help. Then the woman straight up admits he's insanely strong. After she witnesses his power, she admits trusting him feels completely natural. Magnus leans in and demands her name, then she smiles and says she's the Queen's sister. She crosses her arms and asks straight up if he's thinking about how someone as old as her can still have a name as gorgeous as Queen, because she was young once too. She claims she's always been like a sister, but she hasn't had any ties to the church for the last 20 years. She snaps that even so, under God's gaze, none of us amounts to anything. The boy bursts into laughter and calls her radical, but the woman shakes her head and says she'd rather be called honest. She tells them the church promised that if you gave God your heart every single day, you'd get closer to him, yet after 40 years, it never happened for her. Trembling, she blurts that she's out of hope and the rejection must be God's doing, so she walks away from the church. She tells him that all she could do was pray every day, but one day she finally stopped, stormed out of the church, and decided she'd never be able to wield healing magic again. She blurts that God has finally bestowed on her the power of healing magic, and then she asks, wide-eyed, if that miracle isn't real. The hero nods and says it all clicks since the church leaders taught it this way, and then the girl bursts into laughter, calling him straight-up bold. Queen blurts out that she likes him, then pulls him in for a meal, using dinner as her way of saying thank you for real. After a little while, they're tucked into their seats at a table, eating like it's finally time to breathe. She tells him dig in until your heart's satisfied, then grab a drink too. Magnus swears he's fine, but the woman snaps back that he shouldn't toss out such dull lines, then reminds him with a sharp grin that he's still young. He changed the topic fast and fired off a question, was she connected to Ramsay? She nodded and revealed the truth. Years ago, she'd been the one who helped him when he was gravely injured. She tells him that every time she slips back through that coma, she always makes a point to go see him. She tells him the elder makes the journey back and forth a few times every year. Ramsay's name sits on the list of the most important adventurers, famously the guy who crushed the toughest ancient ruins, later christened Ramsay's Ancient Ruins ***, and now, reports say he's vanished and is away somewhere. When the hero realizes Ramsay is always on the move, dread hits him. His luck really is awful. He stares at the encyclopedia and grimaces because sure, it's packed with god-level details for taking down the Demon King, but it doesn't help with much else. Magnus fixates on Ramsay because only he can carry out his plan to crush the Demon King, and if the encyclopedia doesn't stamp Ramsay as important, then Ramsay's fate gets erased from history forever. Every morning, that encyclopedia refreshes with brand new info, so his patience snaps, because he can't believe nobody told him where Ramsay was headed. Then he turns to a woman and demands if she knows where Ramsay might be, and she gives him a rough guess, yet warns that he's really got to think twice before chasing him, because Ramsay plans to be back in about a month. The hero snaps back that he can't wait that long, and she fires, so what would you do if you missed the next chance? He tells her, I can hop back to Como once a day with a spell called City Gate, so checking whether Ramsay's made it back is way easier, and then they can decide what to do next. The nun finally blurts out, now I get it, why you're talking about taking down the Demon King, you're a monster of a sorcerer. She insists she's not teasing him at all, she flat out admires him. Switching gears, Magnus tells everyone he's scared for Ramsay, because the royal hero group is hunting him. Right now it all hits him. He remembers exactly what that strange man warned him about the hot blade skill. He starts clocking that the man probably understands skill levels too well, and the thought hits him hard. This training might be coming straight from Prince Haydn. That's how you can crank a skill to the max, lock those status boosts in place and still drop levels, so the skill gets stronger. Magnus dug up every secret about the system for the encyclopedia. But he can't help wondering, how on earth did Haydn figure it out? After she takes a sip, she jokes that it's only a suggestion, then suddenly offers to take him to a place she's been thinking about, completely shocking the protagonist. She admits she came to see him too, tells him to quit worrying, and swears she won't be a burden. Buzzing with excitement, he urges her to leave right now, but she bursts into laughter and tells him, "Nope, finish your meal first." Still reeling, he stares at the table and can't stop asking himself if he truly has to finish all of it. Soon enough, they're already soaring on the flying carpet, and she can't stop gushing about how fast they're going and how cool that wind feels. He thanks her, but his words freeze in his throat. He doesn't know what to say back. Stunned, she fires off a question. What kind of demon carries a name that rare? The boy's nerves spike as he blurts that everyone's been wondering the exact same thing. Right then, he realizes they can already spot the ancient ruins ahead, like the past is staring back at them. During that ancient magical empire, these cities got swallowed by sand for a staggering 50,000 years. Shocked, she blurts out that people are actually living in metal houses, something she never, ever saw coming. The boy leans in and says their defenses are unmatched, built to shrug off every enemy attack. With a grin, he blurts out that the tons of magical items they've got don't just power them, they paint the whole world in beauty. The nun snaps that it's downright heartbreaking to spend your whole life trapped inside those metal boxes, and that she'd feel utterly suffocated living that way. Right here, the hero reveals the truth. Those metal structures are holding the ancient ruins together, because without them, the whole place would have been crushed flat under all that sand, just like any normal city would have been. She says tons of adventurers have been chasing those ancient ruins for one reason, to carve your names into history, and she mentions how even merchants have blown massive fortunes just to hunt down fresh ruins too. Then she reveals the crazy part. This obsession started back in the Empire days, and it's still going strong today. Everyone is totally fixated on these ancient ruins, like they can't think about anything else. Right after they step off the carpet, they're staring at the ruins of Tobola, so massive it feels unreal. Right ahead of them, an argument kicks off out of nowhere, and the old woman snaps, demanding to know what's going on. They tell him this is second-class authorization, and it has to be checked with extreme care, so the protagonist fires back, "Is there something wrong?" A brand new adventure detonates right here, with 3 young men getting swallowed by trouble. One kid shrugs, calling it a plain all second-class authorization, and the other immediately chimes in, saying it definitely wrecked them financially, costing a huge fortune. Then the guard sighs and tells him the hard truth. To step into the ruins of Tobola, he needs first-class authorization. One boy snaps that there's no way regular adventurers like them could ever score a first-class authorization, and the other fires back that the guards are doing it on purpose. During the interview, the protagonist steps in with full authorization in hand, insisting this is all they'll need. The men reel in disbelief. This is first-class authorization, and these handwritten papers are stamped and issued right by the prince and princess themselves. After that, the hero gets cleared to move on, then he shouts for the 3 right away. He lined in, demanded to know what they were up to, and then practically dragged them into joining him. They line up from right to left and shout their names, Ted first, Rod in the middle, and Mage on the left. Ted tells him they're ruin explorers, basically treasure chasers who hunt ancient ruins across the kingdom, and they've always worked with 4th-class authorizations, but now they're done staying low, so they pushed for a 2nd-class permit. Ted tells them their fiancés are waiting back in their hometown, and the kicker, the 2 women are triplets too. Right now, he tightens his fist and tells them they'll come back, get their money up first, then return and marry them, because that's their shared dream. With a bold introduction, the hero blurts out his name, Magnus, while the old woman smiles and says she's Kryn, then lays it out. They've come to find a man called Ramsey. One of the boys suddenly clicks, "Wait, you mean the legendary adventurer?" The other boy grins and says, "Yeah, that's us. We specialize in investigations. Let us help, we'll repay the hero." Magnus starts to thank them, then the old woman snaps in, warning that they'll only drag everything down. They fire back like they've earned every battle they've survived, swearing they can handle things solo, and they'll never be a burden. Watching it all unfold, the boy realizes the 3 still haven't cracked past level 10. So you've got to be careful, because once the group steps in, it's straight into the ruins. They step into a massive city, and everyone's jaw just drops in stunned awe. This city was carved right out of the ruins. Stunned by Magma's remarks on how bright it's glowing even with no sky above, one of the boys shot his finger upward and spotted the light source. When he spots that magical glow, the boy shoots a question. Are those enchanted tools somehow bolted up to the ceiling? As he scans the area, he spots a contraption siphoning water, and right beside it, another magical gadget humming with power. Seeing all that unbelievable magic unfold, the protagonist stared in stunned disbelief, like his mind couldn't process what his eyes just saw. Feeling the old woman's stare lock onto him, he snaps his expression into place and tells her it's time to start hunting Ramsey, right now. Later on, deep inside a secret chamber on the 4th floor of the Tobola ruins, a trap snaps shut, sprouting monsters everywhere. Grindel demanded why they dared to open that secret chamber, and one of the boys shot back that 6 different floors had already been searched, so they figured they'd be safe. Magnus smirks and says they'd already guessed this secret chamber would be full of traps, but Ted fires back that this goes way past anything they expected. Right then, the protagonist locks eyes with the old woman, and they both feel the same thought hit at once. With his staff in hand, Magnus thrusts into casting his magic. He grabbed that stone for power and hurled it straight at the monsters. At the same time, he summons Gladius to launch a counterattack, and the nun promises she'll back him up. She cranks up Gladius' power and toughens its defense at the same time. Then the protagonist's robotic bodyguard rockets forward and slams into the monsters with full force. With that settled, the 3 triplets huddled up tight, trembling like they couldn't stop the fear. They confess they truly believed they were about to die, and that this is the first time they've ever laid eyes on this many monsters. Staring at the map, Magna points out there's another secret chamber and blurts, "What do we do now?" Ted shoots back, desperate and done playing around, "This is enough," and orders everyone to stop and focus on finding Ramsey. The hero reassures them, "It's fine, you can come with me," but Ted refuses, snapping that they can't keep leaning on him because if Magnus falls, they're all dead. He pushes for splitting the treasures between everyone, then they surge forward toward their goal. Then the triplets turn to Magnus and Kryn and tell them, with wide smiles, how insanely generous they're being. The woman tells them, "We all share both the wins and the losses. Doesn't that sum up what a good life is all about?" After a while, they're battling all kinds of monsters, while the protagonist swings his staff like a weapon made for the chaos. Meanwhile, Kryn channels her magic and fires up the support that turns everything around. The 3 triplets don't just stand there, they swing their swords, blocking every brutal monster hit as they fight to survive. After the dust settled, everything finally felt okay again. Kryn was racing to heal the injured triplets. Then the whole crew erupts into laughter, because they're not just pretending, they're genuinely having the time of their lives. Later on, they're finally on the 8th floor of the Tobola ruins, and one of the boys blurts out that they've got to be right near Ramsey's location. Magnus tells them their map is about to become useless from here on out. A little later, one of the triplets blurts out, "Do you think Ramsey's hiding on this floor?" and pushes for them to hunt him down fast. The old woman leans in and says he's a real genius at vanishing from tracks, like they never even saw him. Buzzing with excitement, they fling their hands toward the sky, shouting that he can't slip away, this has to happen. Out of nowhere, a towering Anubis-like monster crawls onto a rooftop and locks eyes on them. Then the protagonist snaps into action, blasts it with his fire ability, and hurls the attack straight at that thing. Kryn can't help but regret that he should have been more careful, because both the scientists and those guardian monsters might have heard them. Magnus blurts out that guardians aren't the only ones who can hear the battlefield's chaos. She suddenly realizes he's talking about Ramsey. When the triplet lands that brutal hit, Magnus and Aunt Crayon just seem unshaken, and Aunt Crayon's like, "Don't worry, they're safe with the 2 of us." As they look back, one of the triplets spots a rider barreling in on horseback, and the protagonist instantly shoves him out of the way to keep him from getting crushed. But one of the monsters finally lands a brutal hit on Magnus. Just as it hits, he gets electrocuted, and the triplets burst into cries, thanking him because he fought through it to save them. That centaur monster fires up and charges straight back at the protagonist, again fast and furious. With his angel ring blazing, he boosts his magic resistance, then summons Gladius to tear into the monster with him. Stunned by how brutal the fight gets, Magnus locks in and refuses to let his focus slip. Then boom, someone pops up at the window yelling, "Over here," and they instantly rush to follow. Right then, the monsters completely freeze in place, no movement, no mercy. All 5 cram into a house, holding their breath as they watch Gladius square off against the centaur. Magnus suddenly pulls back from the fight, and the hero ducks into hiding, mind spinning, because this opponent packs enough power to crush them all and flatten the house with one brutal attack. Still stammering, the triplets blurt out that they're safe now. Just as they closed in, the man on the stairs leaned forward and spoke. That's Ramsey, the legendary adventurer they were both hunting, the protagonist and the old man. The ex-adventurer kicks off the conversation and dives into exactly what kind of place this is. One of the brothers finally muttered that they were insanely lucky, because in every other question, they couldn't figure out why that golem stopped hunting them. Ramsey tells him there are 2 kinds of guardians, some let their power wreck everything around them, and some refuse to touch a thing. Then the protagonist suddenly remembers spotting those exact rules in his strategy book. Curious, Magnus leans in and asks Ramsey how he knew the golem wouldn't smash everything around it, and Ramsay shrugs back that he barely even looked into it. He swore it was intuition. After roaming ruins for so long, he could spot the exact golem type at a glance. Then he throws the invite out. "Come on, everyone, join me for a meal." One of the boys blurts out, "So, can you tell when we'll see the sun?" And the old man just smiles and says, "In a way, yeah." One of the triplets blurts out that it's mind-blowing, while the protagonist thinks Ramsay is basically a living encyclopedia of ancient ruins. He calls it perfect. Ramsay is exactly the kind of guy he's been hunting for. The sorcerer leans in and tells Mr. Ramsay he's on a mission to take down the Demon King, and if they're going to do it, Matt has to dig into the ancient ruins right now. Then he leaned in and asked the former adventurer if he'd be willing to lend his hard-earned knowledge and experience. Watching Mr. Ramsay's face, the protagonist assumes he's seconds away from saying no, and he panics. What can he do to convince him? She yanks Mrs. Thomas along and fires a question at Ramsay. "Did you pull it off?" And the old man just smirks. If he had, he wouldn't be stuck here all alone. When Ted interviews Mrs. Ferris, she demands to know if he's got a clue what everyone calls this old man, and Ted blurts that it could be the retainer. She drops this wild legend too, that he and his crew were supposedly impossible to hurt. Annoyed to the bone, Ramsay snaps that something that perfect can't be real, and Mrs. Furr shoots back that the survival rate is sky-high, but no matter what, total safety was never guaranteed. He then drops the bombshell. After almost 40 years of chasing monsters, he's only ever lost 7 companions. He explains that even with Tabola included, Ramsay only lost 1 companion, and that his last victim, the 7th, was the reason he finally quit. The man leans in and tells him, "Call me Cain," then adds, "I'm still young and my future's gonna shine." 8 years back, a kid warrior stands there jawing with Ramsay. This is Cain. The moment he's seen, one of the men scoffs that Ramsay was finished by himself, and the boy snaps back, straight-faced, that he's Ramsay's successor. Laughing in his face, the man sneers that he's still just a kid, one who can't even drink alcohol. Ramsay figured someone that young deserved real training, because legends don't just happen, they're forged. Up on the 8th floor, everyone spots a centaur-like giant golem, and panic erupts as they sprint for their lives. Then the centaurs grind to a halt, and they kick everyone out. One of the guys snaps that, just like they predicted, this floor is way too brutal for them, so they need to find the exit, and fast. Someone calls out asking if everyone's here, and right then the warriors start whispering, "Cain's missing," and it hits like a punch, leaving the old man totally stunned, frozen in disbelief. Bursting out of Ramsay's quarters, he finds his pupil crumpled on the floor, completely shattered, utterly beaten. Later, they marched up to Cain's family to apologize, bracing for every insult like it was coming their way, but the family just smiled and said they were happy because Cain got to live his life as an adventurer. When Ramsay hears that, it all crashes down. Tears spill out as he feels completely crushed by the weight of responsibility. The guild leader didn't hold back. He admitted he was terrified of the enemy, watched his chance slip away, then snapped that it was pathetic and downright infuriating. He lays it all out. This is exactly why he quit adventuring and fought to reunite with him. Every year he kept asking himself the same wild question. Could he finally beat that golem and come back to try again? He admits his real goal is simple: get Cain's body and belongings back no matter what. He says the golem has already been beaten once, yet it still looms like a nightmare, pure shaking terror. Rising from the table, Magnus tells Ramsay he finally gets the mess he's in, and then declares they're going to crush that golem. The triplets are completely stunned, staring at each other like, did Magnus really hear what we just said? Another notes that even the legendary adventurer couldn't bring it down. The protagonist steps in after studying it, saying the name is Guzzo, the boss of the 8th floor. It shrugs off magic like it's nothing, and it's the natural nightmare of mages everywhere. Magnus stands tall and says with total confidence that no matter what hits them, they're still going to win. After some time passes, the protagonist starts weaving through the busy streets, one step at a time. Creighton tells the boy to call her that name. Suddenly a golem erupts onto the scene, barrels toward everyone, and Magnus snaps, "Gladius, defend us." Trapped in that cramped space, he feels pure helplessness, and then it clicks. Golem isn't going to smash a single structure. She fires off her magic to supercharge Gladius, jacking up his power, sharpening his reflexes, hardening his defenses, and making him built to last. The sorcerer leans in and tells them the shocking truth. Gladius and the golem are carved from the same rare, precious material, so magic bounces off both of them just as hard. Magma declares her offensive magic is stronger than any mage's, then fires off a plea for her help. The warrant basically hands him the green light, saying this is the ideal moment for the expert and that he should just trust her with it. Right then, the protagonist launches his spell as Gladius slams into the monster. Gladius pours raw power into both hands, then rockets forward like he's about to explode into the fight. He shattered the target with nothing but his fists. But the golem doesn't just move, it's powered by a special kind of magic. With a crackling lightning strike, it zaps the protagonist into total paralysis. The fight erupts into a full-on showdown between three magic-wielding monsters. The golem keeps hammering the air with lightning magic. Magnus snaps his gaze sideways and spots a fighter sliding right into the clash. Grinning from ear to ear, the former adventurer Ramsey comes riding in on a beast, and he says this is exactly what he wanted to show. One of the triplets blurts, "This is unreal," and right then, the golem cranks up its magic like it's about to explode. In the chaos of battle, Ramsey lunges into the chaos, yelling at everyone to dodge the magic fast before it hits. He backs away fast, searching for the opening to launch a brutal counterattack. The old man leans in and says, "Yeah, it's all playing out exactly like you planned, kid." Magnus calls for reinforcements from the rooftops. Kryn taps into her most refined spells and wipes the protagonist's paralysis clean away. With a bright grin, she tells him it's her wish, land the final blow. The protagonist starts unleashing the very same magic he used to crush the demon, basically daring fate to prove him wrong, because he's sure it'll rip through the golem too. He grinds through sheer effort to cast his spell. Gladius barrels into the golem at full speed, smashing it to pieces in an instant. The monster is wiped out completely, and the whole crowd erupts in cheers because Magnus unleashes an insane spell, while in the blacksmith's hand, the refined silver of ancient Alabama gleams like a miracle. With a huge smile, the hero declares they crushed the monsters so easily only because everyone had their backs, then he thanks each and every one of them. At that exact moment, Ramsey barrels toward the wreckage of the golem. With a hand on his shoulder, the boy leans in and tells him, "All right, it's time to go." Later on, they launched a frantic hunt for the missing pupil's body. But all they uncover are his bones and the shredded remains of his clothing. On his knees, Ramsey blurts out a desperate apology to Cain for keeping him waiting for 8 long years. With a chunk of wood in hand, he starts prying bones apart, then he grabs the boy's skull. Clutching something in his hands, the old man's tears start pouring out. The very next day, deep in the city of Galba, everything was about to kick off. Ramsey leans in and tells the protagonist, "From now on, you're under my care." The old man says, "For now, this is all we need," and then admits he's kept his promise, bringing Cain back home where they can finally hold his funeral. Humbly bowing, he thanked the hero with all his heart. He finally admits it's time to say goodbye. This is exactly what he came to say. Hearing that, the whole room erupts with excitement. Ramsey steps forward and declares, "I'll be your guide through these ruins, trust me, I'm making sure everyone walks back alive." He shot his hand out and thanked him, calling him sir with full respect, but Ramsey shut that down fast, telling him to save that kind of formality for the elders, not for him. While they shake hands, Ramsey leans in and tells the sorcerer there's no time for fake formalities. Flynn hoisted the triplets onto his back and marched them forward, basically announcing, "You're in officially." With a grim look on his face, he confidently declares that he'll stand for every single one of them. Then he tells them, "Don't worry, this time we're counting on that old man to make sure every single one of us makes it home safe." He clings to that old man's vow that every single person would come back alive, and begs it won't turn into some hollow lie. He says, as their mage, you'll make sure every single one of them comes back safe. He snaps his voice up and orders that these young men get trained to become first-class adventurers, then confidently predicts they'll grow into legendary legends. The boys slam into the truth about their flaws and immediately beg for help. One of them demands training with 0 limits, no rules, no restrictions. The old man watches in silence, weighing his next move should he really train them, while doubt gnaws at him and memories of Cain slam back into his mind. Smiling like he owns the world, the old man raises his title and swears it, right there, as a retainer. He swears he'll make sure all 5 of them come back alive. Every single person lights up with excitement at this news. James says the legend of Braum isn't finished, and promises they're about to rise as legendary adventurers. As Magnus tore through the ancient ruins, he cracked open the strategy book and hunted down the rare items he needed to take out the Demon King's 8 generals. He snatches Shadow Book 4, locks in Petrification Level 2, and grabs Wind 4 plus Mana Ray 4, along with a whole haul of other gear that's about to supercharge his mission. He can't believe it, everything's going perfectly. And just like that, it flips from before, night and day difference. He says that if they didn't have the strategy book, every single one of his companions would have stalled. No one would have reached this far in such a short time. A few days later at the Galba Inn, the protagonist asks, "So you all just came back?" And one of them grins and says it was a blast, like the whole thing was a prank. Still flushed with embarrassment, the boy blurts out that yeah, he actually loved every second of it. Back in the city of La Custa, you definitely didn't expect Arya to be waiting there for the new house, and she tells you it's all because of Magnus, who landed them a haul of magical items and a mountain of bonuses to match. She's sitting there like, why did I buy a house before we were even married? And somehow he can't help it, her fearless move just sweeps him off his feet. As he stares in awe at the gift, a man bursts in, shouting for Magnus, and asking if he can tag along with them. Kate blurts out that their leader had called everyone in for the invite. The moment he shows up, the guy greets him with a rush of apologies, like he only called him for this one thing. She admits she'd considered going to him, but she held back because she didn't want to pull too much attention on herself. With a bright smile, the protagonist tells her it's totally okay, he really doesn't mind, and she quickly thanks him for being so understanding. Suspicion prickles his mind, he didn't expect this at all. He shoots back asking if it's truly safe, and she answers with a calm certainty, this is a spot where he can show up without starting a scene. She says every client under him is really her guard team, spread out across the area, so he can finally drop his guard and relax. That clicks in their heads and the triplets start eyeing everyone like hawks. Then they wonder if every single one is really her guard, because honestly, that's just what you'd expect from a princess. Ferdinand snaps the conversation to something everyone can taste, food cooked to perfection. Then Ramsay tells the woman to act her age, but the old lady shuts him down fast, warning him to keep quiet before he kills the appetite. Ramsay even said he invited everyone just so they could eat, and the woman fired back that turning down all this food would be a tragedy, then urged them to kick back and go all in. With zero hesitation, the protagonist steps right up and asks the woman, "So tell me, what do you want from me?" She shoots him a question, "Do you know a city called Nuries?" Then she lays it out, there's a huge city 3 cities south from where they stand, and she's seen soldiers from the capital pouring into the area. The protagonist claims he heard it through rumors, but that's a straight-up lie. He clearly pulled the truth from the strategy book, and when the princess admits she was told never to bring it up. She tells him that in the Kalkal region, far south of Nereus, something strange is tearing through reality, and that whole cities have vanished. She claims whole cities and every living soul inside them just disappeared without a trace. It was the travelers and wandering adventurers who spotted the chaos firsthand and rushed to the authorities to report it. At first, everyone swore the map was misread, and that they'd straight up gotten lost in the damn desert. But they blew the map's directions, and the only real clues were the cities that had vanished from the route. Hearing that, Magnus's stomach drops. This is a massive problem because if it keeps up, they'll never get to push deeper into the ruins. Then he strides right up to the nun. He's convinced he has to grab a magical item, one that's hidden in the ruins of the capital region. Right then, the boy starts thinking, breaking the silence as the princess steps in and proposes a deal, calling him Lord Magnus. The boy nodded, grinning, and said he was thinking the exact same thing she was. She grins and says maybe they're just made for each other, and the protagonist shoots back that she's definitely razor sharp. The boy insists this mess can't be fixed just by throwing in the military, so she turns to him and demands his help with the Lacustination. She makes it crystal clear she's not asking for charity, then promises she'll personally secure a special grade authorization for everything he's done. She fires off, "So what do you think?" And the boy just nods like there's no doubt in his mind, then promises, "I'll do it." Hearing that, the princess lights up with joy, and they clasp hands with wild, excited energy. The protagonist starts to feel it coming. The strategy book's secret sub-event is the princess's desperate plea to save the Kalkal region. Suddenly, she yanks him into a tight embrace. Joy hit the princess like a tidal wave, and she thanked him for everything he'd done, right there with all her heart. Face shoved against her chest, he freezes in pure shock and blurts out, "Your Highness." Everyone around them is staring in pure shock at what's unfolding, especially the triplets, whose embarrassment hits an all-time high. Warren blurts that she's drowning in emotions, insists nobody take her seriously, then bursts into quick laughter to brush it off. Sweat prickled on his skin and dizziness rocked his head as he snapped at himself. He was slipping, losing focus, and it made him remember the area. The boy blurts out, shouting at her like, "Hey Net, well back off, you're way too forward." He tears away from her chest, lets out a heavy sigh as she bursts into laughter, and she keeps apologizing. Then one of the triplets cornered the protagonist and asked how he was feeling, but the man snapped back, "Don't ask." Suddenly the door explodes inward as a man in brown bursts into the room, swinging a sword like a storm. He's from the National Protection Group of the 6 Stars of Sword Coding, and he shouts for Princess Farah. Just then another guy slides in, blasting his way through yet another passage. This is Tintin, same crew that talks to Ramsay, basically hinting he gave up a chunk of his power. The guards whip out their weapons and shout they have to protect Her Highness. Then Brown bursts in out of nowhere, wrecks the whole scene, and wipes out every last guard with terrifying ease before they even get a chance to react. With a terrifying stare, he snaps that the guards get wiped out way too fast. Tintin stands right there among the guards, unshaken, like he owns the moment, leaving the protagonist's crew reeling in pure shock. The man fires, "What are you doing here, Tintin?" And the wound snaps back, "Funny, you should ask that right back at yourself." She bolts over the moment she hears Ramsay is there, and in the next breath the man admits he came only because he's finally found the perfect opening to assassinate the princess. He tells them to lock in on their own assigned jobs. They both declare to their leader, "We've got good news for you." The princess leans in and says these people are insanely strong, part of the 6 stars, like a direct arm of the nation's protection forces. The teams launch into battle prep and Freya cuts in fast, telling them, "Don't get swept up." One of them shoots back, "We've been through hell," while the other clenches their fists and says, "We're not who we used to be." The triplets bolt after the assassins in a blur, and the protagonist screams at them to stop, shouting that their levels aren't high enough to survive. When he looks back, he finally spots the princess, and he can't bring himself to leave her alone. Meanwhile, the triplets dive into the fight with blazing excitement, desperate to smash their opponents and claim victory. He snaps back that he has zero patience for fools like them, and she immediately snaps into attack mode. In seconds, she whips the triplets down, stashing their clothes and leaving them completely stripped. When they finally catch sight of it, total nakedness, triplets snap into screaming panic. Still, those good view comments were wounded, and the protagonist just couldn't stop wondering why she didn't finish them off. Climbing the stairs, Brown snaps at Magnus, telling him to quit fretting about what's going on down there. Ferdinand slams the brakes, saying that if they launch an attack from here, it'll all go up in flames and take everything with it. The man snaps back that arguing is useless, but the protagonist surges forward anyway, shielding the princess with his own life. Roan asks Magnus if he really doesn't mind playing a human shield, and the hero just shrugs like, "Yeah, it's basically normal to assume a mage would step in front." Bloody Brown snarls that Magnus is a complete fool. Rushing at the boy, he growls that he won't spare him, not even an inch. The sorcerer suddenly whips out a wind technique, boosting his dodge rate so hard he slips every strike, leaving Brown stunned and wide-eyed. With total confidence, the level 36 mage just smirks and thinks, facing someone like this feels like stumbling onto a monster right in the middle of the city. Right then, the protagonist leans in and asks, "Is Brown around level 20? And the guy snaps back, "Nope, he's level 19. Magnus lets out a mocking laugh and says Brown isn't even close to Eugene's level. When Magnus pulls off that technique, the whole round freezes in pure terror. That's the wind technique, packed with a crazy special effect that spawns fake clones of the user out of thin air. Rage burning, Brown charges in and starts smashing every single clone one by one. As he watches, the boy snaps, saying Brown called him a fool and swore he'd show him zero mercy. The protagonist snaps into a counter and thinks, "I'm not accepting magic this week, because just the gap in their stats and levels is more than enough." Magnus slams down a brutal hail of hits, then one clean strike leaves Brown utterly defeated, leaving Freya and the princess standing there, completely blown away. Meanwhile, the woman bursts into laughter at the triplets, teasing their wild overconfidence while bemoaning that they're giving her nothing worth watching. But then right in that instant, something feels wildly off and she knows it. She looked back, asked about Brown's condition, and then, out of nowhere, a blade slid toward her neck. This is a full-blown disaster, and someone snaps an order at her, "Don't you dare move." They shoot her a deadly stare and warn her, "Mess up, act suspicious, and they'll kill her." With the old man's command ringing in her ears, she drops her weapon and obeys without hesitation. Now he's fully disarmed and the other enemy is sprawled out, defeated. Then later, a guard grabs the 2 assassins, ties them up, and the princess orders them straight to the dungeon. The princess thanks her with tears in her eyes, saying she has no words for how grateful she is, and Magnus chimes in, this wasn't just her rescue, he saved his own companions too, and the woman's feelings match his. The princess pushes for answers, why go after Ramsay and Magnus at all, because it's not just he's a legendary adventurer, there are deeper reasons. Freya breaks it down, they need someone who can brave those ancient ruins, and Magnus immediately nods, agreeing. Her eyes sparkle as she blurts out that Magnus looks insanely strong, and that his power feels endless. The princess tells him she wants to prove her gratitude in a way that hits harder than words, then right then and there, she thrusts a key into his hands. She tells him it's the key to her quarters in the capital palace, and it leaves Magnus stunned until he swears he'll come back for it. With a sly, suspicious grin, she fires back that she only said it was the key to her throne, and insists she mentioned nothing inappropriate. Teasingly, she tells him he's making a funny face and then dares him to try anything, saying she'll let him sleep somewhere other than her bed. Magnus shoots back instantly. He doesn't need it. The princess insists it was only a joke, but she can't help slipping in that Magnus is strong, good-looking, and absolutely irresistible. She slips her hand into his and tells him, "If you ever want a secret being, just ask me." Staring at the key, the protagonist realizes just how brutal it is to face these women after everything that's happened. A few days later, right there in the Alabama and Cockrell region, they set up an incident investigation department. An investigation is on the move over the Cockrell region. Cities are vanishing, and we're right now riding alongside a whole legion to shut this disaster down. The protagonist, the princess, and Freya all pile onto a magic carpet and soar off toward whatever destiny has in store next. The princess blurts out, shaking with excitement, "This is my very first time on a flying carpet." Ramsay shoots back with a tough question about whether she should even act like a tourist, and then she blurts out an apology, admitting she almost never leaves the palace. Freya cuts in, snapping that she won't listen to that guy, and her nerves won't change how this incident ends. Laughing, Freya blurts that's exactly why the princess has to stop worrying and soak up the ride. Laughing, the princess says Madame Queen sees the world in a totally different, unforgettable way. The princess confesses she always figured believers were stubborn to the bone, but now she's starting to wonder if she judged them way too fast. She swore they'd never answer her because she figured someone like the princess must know nothing, but somehow she can't help it. She's grown genuinely fond of her. With arms crossed, the old man snaps that they're way too relaxed, so the boy shrugs and says they don't have to rush because they'll keep moving calmly unless they uncover something. Who or what is pulling the strings behind the whole incident? The old man leans in and demands Magnus' best guess, who or what sparked the incident and swallowed those cities. Then Magnus blurts back that it has to be a giant sandworm. Right then, one of the triplets chimed in, saying they'd heard rumors about it. He's describing it like a monster that devours anything. Then he pauses and says, "Yeah, but even it can only swallow a horse." He lines in and tells you that after living for more than 100 years, a giant worm mutates into a Caesar-class sandworm, and once it wakes up, it starts devouring whole cities like they're nothing. Magnus grabs the princess's attention and tells her, "If that creature shows up, pull you and your soldiers back right now. I'll take care of beating it." He admits it would be a massive political victory, one that's finally handled head-on by Princess Farah and her army. But he's adamant no sacrifices should be thrown away on his account. Then he lines in and says, "Trust me, this is the best move for both the princess and the sorcerer." With a bright smile, the princess declares that he's genuinely a good man. But then boom, someone barges in and roars that Her Highness must never trust a man like him. It's General Tahil of the princess's empire. She's flat out refusing to believe a single word from this lying scumbag. The princess steps in front of Magnus and calls him the hero who saved the king of La Custa, then snaps at Tahil to take his words back, but the general scoffs and declares it's disgraceful for a highness to fall for a liar like that. With that huge mustache on his face, the general snorts and tears into the whole giant sandworm idea, so ridiculous it's not even worth laughing at, then adds that if something like that ever showed up, the mage wouldn't last a second. Magnus presses the general for a plan to stop this kind of threat, and the general, snickering, fires back with, "What kind of fool builds a strategy around a lunatic's delusion?" He insists the only weapons that matter are courage and patriotism, so forget all those petty tricks like plans. He lifts his sword to the sky and shouts that with just it, he can command 3,000 knights and crush every enemy foolish enough to get in his way. He insists he won't mess with the general's plans, then quietly asks if he wouldn't want some backup at least. Rage simmering, the general snaps that he needs no help, and that all the boy has to do is keep the princess hidden. Hearing that, the triplets snap, furious and roaring, "Who does this guy think he is?" The princess is shaken by her subordinate's words, but the boy steps in fast, telling her it's okay. And she told herself to let it go, because if she couldn't, soldiers would still be dying out there. This line sends the princess's nerves straight into overdrive. Freya scoffs, saying the army's commander is the princess, and the general is just an aide, then asks out loud why anyone would actually obey his orders. The princess admits the soldiers only follow Hall's orders because everyone treats him like the absolute best, ignoring her authority like it doesn't even matter. Magnus demands why she can't just give Tahil a straight order, and she snaps that it won't work. Tahil is one of her marriage candidates. Farah tells her that the Emperor is still hunting for new candidates for her wedding, yet still won't make a single move. Then she snaps that she's sick of every last one of them bombarding her with gifts, basically calling them fools to their faces. Farah says Tahil swoops in, takes credit for ending this whole incident, and that alone could put him ahead of every other candidate, so General Tahil doesn't want Magnus anywhere near the job. The mage warns them, the second the fight turns deadly, pull back at once, give the soldiers a clean escape path before disaster hits. With a warm smile, the princess tells him he's incredibly thoughtful and says, straight up, that he's truly kind. Flushed to the core, the protagonist waves it off and admits he's just sick of watching people get killed for no reason at all. He spots Freya and the princess both grinning and caught in a rush of embarrassment. He straight up tells them, if you've got something to say it now. 3 days later, one of the triplets spots something wild and blurts out, is that a moving mountain? Ramsay wonders if the boy's losing it to the heat haze while the triplet fires back, is it just a mirage? In front of them looms a towering giant sandworm, bigger than their wildest nightmares. The commander's eyes go wide as shock hits him, and he blurts out that he can't believe what he's really seeing. Then, right on the spot, he snaps his orders to the soldiers in formation to gear up and get ready to fight. He also orders the princess's bodyguards to stay on full alert. Right then the imperial princess snaps, if things tip into disaster, the whole army must fall back at once. At that exact moment, the whole army, led by that mustachioed menace, sprints straight into the giant worm's path. That giant monster lunges in and strikes before anyone can react. From the sidelines, the old man watches the fight unfold and declares they're never going to pull it off. Right on the spot, a colossal sandworm erupts from the dunes and smashes into a whole fleet of soldiers. He heaved them and their horses up into the air like it was nothing. Terrified, one soldier screams that this enemy is unbeatable, then orders every troop to fall in line and obey the princess as they retreat. Crushed to the ground, the general stares in shock, screaming that he's supposed to be Alibarna's great general. And there's no way this is real, this has to be a nightmare. The protagonist strides forward and blurts, "You all ready?" And the triplets snap back, "Yes, we are." As the army panics and scatters, they sprint straight for the giant monster. Welcome to the Caesar Giant Sandworm level 37. Ramsay promises they'll show this monster the full strength of human wisdom and civilization, and that sparks fire in everyone's hearts for the fight. At that exact moment, the protagonist snaps orders to go for the monster's legs first, but the triplets refuse and argue back. They wield an ancient ruin relic known as Ice Sight. Then the sorcerer hurls his freeze force spell straight at the monster, unleashing an ice gold assault. One of the triplets blurted out that they'd stumbled on a whole pile of screws in the ancient ruins, and now they can use them any way they want. Irritation boils over and the monster surges up, then it blasts out a sonic boom roar that rattles everything. Confident as ever, Magnus lifts his staff and fires back, demanding whether the monster really thinks its earthquake power can land a hit on something that's in the air. Everyone fires their attacks at once, right into the giant worm. Chunks of the monster's body are sealed in ice, and the old man's eyes scream, danger. He tells them he's got a terrible feeling and pushes them to dodge every unnecessary risk. The nun snaps her arm cannon to life and unleashes a cannon-style explosion straight into the monster. She says they're one shot away from locking it down for good. With sparks in his eyes, Magnus declares he'll land a spotless strike and unleash one of his spells, smashing into the monster head-on. He fires off a power boost X5, cranks his symbol attack strength to 1, and ramps up the odds of a critical hit. Then with his Win 4 customization dialed in, both hands snap into position, and at the perfect moment, he slams them together. This thing unleashes a weird mixed strike that's aimed straight at the sky. They stare up at the guards, and every single group member is stunned speechless. This is the combined magic meter strike, one hit, and boom, a colossal explosion rips through everything. That explosion hits like a wrecking ball, obliterating the giant worm completely. Even as the shockwave hammers everything, the protagonist refuses to shut his eyes. Meanwhile, the princess, the guards, and the triplets are left totally speechless, staring at the unbelievable scene unfolding in front of them. With stars in her eyes, the princess blurts out that she recognized him at once, because he knows the magic of the gods, and he's the very man who crushed Demon King Lord Magnus. As the attack obliterated the giant worm down to nothing, cheers erupted everywhere like the whole crowd had just survived a nightmare. Ulfur shoots the question back, "So this is what you guys call unleashing a force?" Ramses' ruin is the deadliest ancient ruin of them all. Every other one looks like a warm-up in comparison. The protagonist stares in awe, and James blurts out that this is the ruin he'd been hunting, only to realize he doesn't have the special option or power to reach it. The princess swings the door open and tells them to come in, then reminds them of her promise. After they solve the whole mess, they'll get a giant special permit as their reward. She flashes a smile and tells him, hey, it's fine if reality flips the script, nothing has to go exactly as planned. Magnus scoffs that this ruin is tiny next to the others, and Ramsay shoots back that it's because it was once a military stronghold. The old man lines in and tells them to breathe easy, no danger lurks on the first floor. He explains that his crew took down the Guardian last time they were here, right in one of the triplets, and you can tell Ramsay's no rookie, he's a battle-tested explorer. As soon as they step inside, they spot a bunch of people bustling around, hauling and refilling their water jugs like it's a mad rush. One triplet spots strangers in the crowd, while another's mind races. Could these people be living descendants of Alabarna's ancient civilization? Nisagroth tells them these people came from the cities and villages the monster had swallowed, and after they tore it down, they discovered this ruin inside its stomach, turned it into a safe haven. Later on, the protagonist bursts in and declares the monster is dead, and the whole crowd goes silent, stunned. One woman sobs with relief, whispering that she truly believed they were finished, while another stares at him and demands how they could ever possibly thank him. An anxious woman blurts, asking if it's actually safe to step outside, and the protagonist snaps back with confidence, saying Her Majesty and her soldiers are already stationed, ready to guard them. Everyone starts gushing their gratitude. One person praises Magnus as an incredible mage and demands his name, while another can't stop saying how lucky they are that their powerful wizard showed up in time to rescue them. With all that attention crashing down on him, the boy snaps into intense embarrassment and feels totally overwhelmed. As they push forward, Ramsay yells, the stairs to the second floor are over there, come on. Out of nowhere, an ant-like robot shows up and asks if they need anything. Ramsay answers that it's a servo, a magical being, and even a relic from an ancient magical empire. That little robotic ant keeps pestering, do you need anything? And Ramsay just stares, because a servo moving on its own without orders is downright unheard of. The robot suddenly blurts out that it's an intelligent servo, and right on cue, Ramsay erupts with laughter, totally stunned that it could think and even talk. Magnus leans in and asks the robot to guide them to the deeper floor, but the servo snaps back that it's forbidden to grant that request. He rises and tells the mage, like he knew all along, they've got no business dealing with the ant, and the robot just shrugs back, call us if you need anything else. As they haul the robot away from the protagonist's waves, they promise, we'll call you if we need help. As they race down the stairs, they spot it, an ant crawling right behind them like it's on a mission. As they push deeper into the dungeon, that ant stays right on their heels, dogging their every step. Still, somehow, nobody's clocked his presence yet. But the protagonist can't shake the growing unease creeping in. The robot keeps badgering them, asking if they need anything, and when they glance back, the protagonist shuts it down again. No, we don't. Freya chuckles at the robot like it's pure artwork, but the boy mutters that it's absolutely no fun. Freya pushes the idea, take the robot with us, because she's sure it'll come in handy. The boy snaps back that she just wants something to keep herself entertained, then the ant blurts out, Maestro, and demands an order so it can move. When Magnus finally lays the blame on Freya, it jolts you to remember the robot's name, odd but unforgettable. The Amper's creators shrug and say it's no big deal, they only ever called it 265. Frey chuckles at how the robot clearly has a crush on the protagonist, but the boy snaps right back, no, it's her fault. Right now, the ants stay quiet while they argue under their breath, then the robot breaks the silence and tells Magnus, I want a real name. He answers without a beat, Chocolate. Freya blinks and says it's wild how classy his naming sense is, but Magnus cuts in, that's the name of the dog he used to love back at school. The robot beams and tells him, from now on, I'm Chocolate. And the boy just exhales, realizing they've somehow picked up the weirdest companion imaginable. The triplets shoot worried glances and demand, are we really bringing this robot with us? Staring at the robot, the protagonist can't shake the fear that trusting this magical entity might be a deadly mistake. He leaned in and demanded the mage, tell me, what if someone betrays us, like an attack from a guardian? Magnus ruffled the robot's head and leaned in close, telling him servos only carry out the cult, or the human's commands and nothing else, which makes them way more dependable than people ever could. Mortified, Magnus blurts out that they should push ahead. In the end, they crush the labyrinth together, teamwork hits, and the whole maze finally falls. Through twisted halls and maddening cryptograms, they still pushed through and made it look almost easy. After a while, the whole crew slams to stop in front of a door, and they have no clue how to crack it open. At last, they clawed their way to the very bottom of Ramses' ruin. Breathless with excitement, Magnus turns to Old Man Ramsay and pours out his thanks for guiding them to this depth with his hard-earned expertise. Ramsay snaps that the Empire's Earth key won't come without a last, brutal challenge. One final test stands in their way. It looks like some kind of protector is standing guard, ready to shut down anyone who dares get close. The smiling boy tells him, "We've got no choice," and the old man snaps back, warning, "Trust me, this won't be easy." The Guardian looms huge and unstoppable, gripping a brutal axe like it's nothing. "This is the mithril Guzzo column. Hold on, it's about to get wild." Ramsay leans in and warns Magnus to watch his tongue, because Guzzo is the deadliest guardian in the whole magical empire. The mage leans in and says the rumors are wild. This thing is forged from mithril, so magic can barely touch it. But then the protagonist grins, clutching the Pone magic stone, and watches as it steadily refills his MP in a blink. Buzzing with excitement, the robot praises Magnus's brain like he's a genius, and the old man chuckles, admitting everyone truly loves Magnus. Magnus grins, yanks the Gladius MK2 out of his magical pouch, and locks in like he's about to start a war. That pouch, called the Evil God's Jar, can swallow a magical entity and keep it sealed inside. The old man tells him straight up, once Gladius is drawn, it turns into a pure one-on-one showdown, Gladius versus Guzzo, and the moment Gladius steps into the arena, Guzzo storms in, while magic seals the entire area shut. He blasts a brutal warning: any intruder will be wiped out, unless the Guardian gets taken down first. The old man says even scratching the Guardian is brutal, and the triplets beg the protagonist to come back safe. The nun bursts into chanting, pouring spell after spell into Magnus, turbocharging his strength, defense, dexterity, agility, and even his physical and magical resistance. Magnus tightens his focus, and one of the triplets grins and swears the mage has this in the bag, an easy win. Suddenly the ant robot rushes up to him, begging, "Don't leave me behind." The old man strides forward, and when he does, he points out that these ruins carry his name. Smiley leans in and asks Magnus if he'll finally hand over his unfulfilled wish to him. The nun leans in and tells him, "Don't worry, I've got your back and I'll keep a close watch myself." Magnus strides up to the old man, thunders a hard slap on his back, then whips around to lock eyes with the Guardian. Face to face with Buzo, the protagonist locks in, unleashes a battle cry, and Magnus roars that he's going to crush the money Guardian. With a sudden roar, the Guardian charges straight at Gladius. The robot strikes back in a flash, one brutal hit that cracks the Guardian's arm wide open. Breathless, Magnus blurts that with all these magical boosts piling up, there's no way this doesn't end with something made from Amanda and Tina. The Guardian yanks its axe up, ready to swing back. The hero surges ahead and declares, "You're not getting away with this that easy." He's dead set on beating the Guardian, grabbing the key, and keeping his eyes locked on the future he's chasing. With Tentamura blazing in his hand, Magnus twists the battle's attention, leaving Guzzo's attacks to miss as he slips the danger away. The hero lifts his hands and hurls his first spell of stone magic into the air. Flames burst from the Guardian's mouth like it's charging up an attack. The Guardian hurls a storm of fireballs, while Ike snaps off a jetsu to fight back. Magnus braces himself with the divine shield and the wind tunic, but the Guardian cranks the power up and hurls even fiercer flames straight at the boy. From the back foot, Magnus suddenly clicks. He was ready for Guzzo's fiery attack the whole time, because the encyclopedia tipped him off, which let him cram his fire resistance past every limit it had. He declares with zero hesitation that the fight isn't over yet. Leaping at Guzzo, he drives an attack into his staff. At that exact moment, he roars for Gladius, like a countdown just hit zero, and Gladius barrels straight in, slams the Guardian, and pins it in place. The nun starts chanting her magic, swearing that with God's power in her hands, she'll bless his children. With that support fueling him, the protagonist stays locked in, eyes blazing, ready to tear into the fight. The man stares at the barrier, shutting both of them out of magic, then his jaw drops. How can the nun's power still slip through it? He draws in a shaky breath and admits it. Magical circulation has been supercharged by technology, all because they slipped past the nun's spell prep, and now they're paying the price for that dangerous oversight. Magnus finally clocks it. Gladius's crazy magical resistance makes it so the enhancements actually won't work on him. One magic works flawlessly, and it all comes down to that exact same principle. The nun says she can mend his physical wounds again and again, but his fighting spirit won't ever break. Magnus fires back that if she wants to mess with him, she'll have to drain his MP first. Then he laughs and she grins at him, saying he's got no idea how easily she can outlast him. Spurred on to give it his all, Magnus rockets straight at the monster. He squares up to Guzzo and swings his stone level like a weapon. Magnus watches the monster soak up every hit and still bounce back with secret magic, and that's exactly why he dragged his companions along. One triplet stares at the chaos and blurts that the fight has been raging forever, while another gapes at Guzzo's insane strength. Meanwhile, the protagonists looked completely drained, panting like they'd been sprinting through hell. Spent a ton of MP, but his clever damage optimization strategy stretched every point perfectly, so it all landed efficiently. Right when he's about to collapse, he snaps. He just needs one last attack. Once again, he hurls the stone spell, and the monster's body erupts with even more terrifying cracks. Surprisingly, the Guardian starts crumbling from the cracks, and the boy can't contain his excitement. He admitted he'd been targeting the exact same spot ever since the fight kicked off. Seeing the opening, he summons Gladius's twin fists, and the power hits like a strike. The robot clamps down on the Guardian, pinning it in place and stripping it of every weapon. Magnus snatches the Guardian's axe in a flash and blasts through with a strength boost. With raw power surging through his body, he hurls the axe straight at Gladius, who snatches it like it's nothing. Magnus straight up tells them the fastest way to smash a metal golem is to hit it with an even stronger metal. Gladius swings once and cleaves the Guardian Clane in two. It goes straight for the monster's torso, and that thing gets wiped out completely. Seeing it, the protagonist practically lights up. Joy surges through him as a huge smile spreads across his face. The triplets sprinted to the scene, cheering Magnus for his incredible win and gaping at the mithril-refined metal gleaming in their hands. Devil Chocolate swoops in on Magnus, praising his strategy as genius, brilliant, incredible. Ramsey strides up to Magnus, thanking him with real emotion and making it clear that his whole group finally has nothing left to regret. Magnus then clocked everyone's boiling emotions and turned to ask, "So where's Kryn?" Right then he whips his gaze to the side and freezes, completely stunned. A whole group storms in, gripping Kareen as a hostage, and they bark out that nobody moves. Meet Sarama from the 6 Stars, Sanctu and Nadia from 6 Stars, Sanctuan. They insist we only want the palace key, and we're not leaving until we've got it. With that locked in his mind, the protagonist flips back through the encyclopedia like the answer is already waiting on the page. The prince's ideals scream one thing: put the country first, even if it means getting your hands dirty. Like the books say, it's the subordinates who dirty them. But the scariest guy of all is standing right next to them. The group can't believe the assassins found them. Then the woman drops the truth. After Tintin's attack, they've been spying on them through a crystal ball, watching every move from a distance. By tracking every move this crew has made so far, we didn't have to work hard at all to find them. Hearing it, the old man and the triplets started to sweat and get jittery. Chocolate strode forward and claimed it was just some unrelated magical being, until the wooden commands snapped it back to a standstill. Right here and now, Kryn storms into view, and the rage is plain as day. The elder yells at Magnus, demanding the key to save the world, and telling him not to stress over that old woman because her time is almost up. The boy shoots back, saying that kind of self-sacrifice is basically what the nun's class is known for, but she has no right to long for death unless it truly matches her beliefs. Magnus snaps back to their demand and promises to hand over the key, only if Kryn's safety is locked down and guaranteed. He vows his sense of justice won't be twisted by this, because these shady tricks belong to the past. The tension in the air gets so thick you can practically taste it. With a shaky breath, the boy begs everyone to stay calm. One of the women closes the distance and steps in closer. The protagonist weighs handing them the key to the underground palace, even as his mind races toward his next move. Then bam, one brutal shot sinks into a woman's ribs. With a sudden strike, it blares that it's about to free the nun. One guy drops a shocker, "It's impossible," and the other fires back that servants never should stand up to humans. Magnus then leans in and drops the bombshell. Chocolate isn't just dessert, it's a fully self-guided servant. The creature throws a wild celebration, then a maid-dressed woman spots the object with sharp eyes, and insists it has to be erased completely. Without warning, she barrels toward the chocolate and snaps a kick into his neck. That sinking feeling of falling straight toward the ground hits him, and pure panic grips the protagonist. Chocolate, for his part, ends up snapped clean in half. She steps forward and vows, "I have to wipe out my targets." Right then, the hero lunges to hit her, yet she slips out of the way at the last second. The boy snaps that was reckless, and the robot fires back that it served Lord Magnus. Then the boy cuts him off, insisting he has said enough. The robot lights up with joy that the boy actually cares about him. Then the protagonist snaps back that he shouldn't be bothering him. He's dead certain that if that chocolate is truly gone for good, he won't be able to keep his cool for a second. It hit him so fast he still couldn't process it. How on earth did he feel close to some lowly servant? And today, the robot is demanding to be recognized. Anon steps in, thanks the chocolate like it saved her, swears she's doing this instead of that madman, and the whole crew instantly braces to fight. The maid is popping off with strength enhancement, defense, resistance, magical resistance, and agility, so she's hitting way harder than before. As she crashes into one of the twins, she snarls, "I'm starting the cleanup now." She lunges in and lands a sharp kick on the second, then whips in an elbow to the third's neck. She creeps up on old Ramsey and cracks him with a sharp slap using the back of her hand. The twins are worn out and can't stop wondering what's happening with her. They clock that she moves like a martial artist, and then they go, "Wait, she's ridiculously beautiful too." Staring his opponent down, the protagonist realizes he's totally wrong. She's not just a fighter at all. She's a flesh golem built for magical combat by the ancient magical empire. He tells her plain as day, she's not even on Guzzo's level, the guy they just fought before. The protagonist's MP is running on fumes, and the Gladius refuses to work, dead weight when he needs it most. And he can't drop his guard for a second, because a whole crowd is there waiting to bump into him. Suddenly he blasts paralysis magic, and even cripples one of the twins' sight. Frustrated, the maid snaps that she was finally healing, then right as it happened, everything went wrong. With a grin, the sorcerer lines in and asks if she's truly ready to play this game. He throws poison, paralysis, and a lethal blinding curse at the maid. She's hit with a lethal poison, slammed with crushing paralysis, and then, right when she needs it most, her sight vanishes. He breaks it down. Those low-level golems shrug off every status effect like it's nothing, yet their bodies still move and work just like regular humans. He says it means he can stay in the game as long as he wants. Right then, one of the women shouts for Samula, begging her to heal the flesh golem before it gets any worse. She shoots back, "No way, I can't do it, my magic's dead." She glances forward and spots something terrible unfolding right in front of her. Magnus snaps the order to wipe out the maid, and the whole group storms forward in one charge. In the blink of an eye, the mate gets thrown down and ends up flat on the ground. Seeing that, the two women freeze in pure, jaw-dropping shock. An item clatters to the ground, and just like that, the flesh golem collapses, dead. Magnus snaps his orders out loud, right as the tide starts to turn. Avoid moving into that bay if they want to keep the peace. Right then, a shadowy figure slides closer in the background, and Ramsey snaps his eyes to the odd movement. And when he looks back, he finally sees it. There's a man sprinting straight at them. Panting and closing the distance, the old man shouts after him, "Are you one of the Shadow Corridor guys?" This is Hamsu, the 6-star Shadow Corridor thief, standing there and smugly telling Ramsey, "I'm back again." This guy is a stealth wizard who slips into ruins uninvited and vanishes without a trace, so now everyone calls him a notorious traitor. With a snap of magic, the woman unleashes a blindness spell and robs the man of his sight. Ramsey suddenly crumples and drops hard onto the ground. The main character and a tomb raider sprint straight toward the objects, not slowing down for a second. Every single one of them snatches something right out of the chaos. At that exact moment, the two girls rip open a portal straight into the sea. Then they lean in and grill Tomb Raider about what the key looks like he'd know the shape of it off the top of his head. He shoots back, "The key to the underground palace is this jewel." Then he says he'll never lay eyes on this fool again. As they look back, the whole group finally spots her, crumpled on the ground. James and Fear are left reeling, stunned speechless by what just happened. They cornered the mage and demanded answers, claiming all their blood, sweat, and sacrifice had been for nothing, and the whole quest was a complete waste. On his knees, the old man shouts up to Magnus, demanding to know if he gave away the key on purpose. Seeing that, the other person just turns his back on the whole group and walks away in total silence. Looking back, he can't shake the feeling, why is that old man saying all this? And it totally freaks him out because this is nothing he'd ever do. The old man says, "I could have just yanked those items with magic, no questions asked." And if he'd beaten him to the pedestal, he could have snatched all 3 items in one go. He didn't do it simple as that. He decides the boy moved like a maniac, frantic to the core. Laughing out loud, Makiro is laid bare and finally admits what he already feared. Ramsay's sharp eyes saw right through him. When he tells it, he admits that the moment they grabbed the queen, his mind snapped into overdrive. No matter what key they were demanding, he knew he'd come up with something smarter. He snaps and says, "Because of this, I can't open the plan." He tells them he wouldn't let a single one of them get their hands on the Neptunia bracelet. Shaken to the core, the robot blurts out if his attack was pointless, and the hero fires back that they still didn't know how to free the queen from the family. He rests his hand on Chocolate's head and tells him his courage didn't go to waste. Then he adds, "Just promise me you won't pull anything reckless like that again." Meanwhile, at Bezer's workshop in La Custa, the man bursts into loud, unstoppable laughter. He stares at Gladius and growls that the kid went reckless again. The boy blurts out whether he can actually fix Gladius with these materials, and the man answers without hesitation. Those supplies are enough, and Gladius's magical resistance will rise again. Magnus claims he has a reward for the repairs, but the man refuses to take a single coin. Then the hero slams down the hand of God, saying it's an artifact that boosts strength and dexterity by 30. And it'll give him the shot he needs to fight through his condition. The man tells Magnus to stop playing it safe and use everything he's earned. Switching gears, the mage leans in and tells the blacksmith he wants a weapon forged from the exact materials he brought. He also demands they fix that little guy, swearing it's all tied to the chocolate. Somewhere in La Custa, in a buzzing restaurant, Arya steps up, flashes a confident smile, and introduces herself, straight from the Mom Merchants Association. One guy strides in and claims he works for a flour trading company, while the other casually says he's the one who handles the meat. They step in, claim they're fruit and vegetable merchants, and jump straight into a chat with everyone around them. Seeing that, the protagonist grins because she thinks she's mastered talking to a bunch of people at once. Then she realizes today's meeting is only the start, and she's already mapping out what's next. The Mall and Merchants Association is pushing hard to boost foreign exports, while Alabama's barren fields desperately chase a buyer for farm goods, so everyone's greed lands perfectly on both sides. He lays it out, Alabama's state power has been sliding for years, and if it keeps wobbling, other countries are going to pounce, because it has to accept most import offers. Arya says that with everything going on, the Mall Merchants Association wants to strike a fair trade deal, and she's the one who's going to run it. She admits she's still just a kid, but she throws herself into the work with everything she's got. One of the men laughs off their worries, saying, "Master Magnus vouched for her, so nothing bad will happen," and then he brings up the time Magnus tore through that giant worm and saved their people. Later that night, the protagonist leans in and talks with Arya, telling her that from this moment on, the Kingman will claw back its full state power, and that their association's move is about to bring in a massive wave of business. Then his girlfriend shoots back, "I don't get what's so profitable about this. Are you even okay, Magnus?" She tells him that if the Merchant Guild pushes its trade forward, it'll fuel his journey. Then she grabs his arm and declares, "Today, this is a work day." She flashes a sugar-sweet smile and tells him, "Don't relax, today's not finished yet." The very next day, inside the Alabama Palace, right during the audience hour, the Emperor sizes her up and praises her, saying her pacification in the Crickle region was nothing short of extraordinary. Kneeling leans in, thanks her father, and tells him, straight up, that it's all just the education he gave her. She tells you the guy next to her wants to be seen as her apprentice, and he stepped into the ruins with permission that's officially stamped. She says there's no exaggerating it, this achievement is downright remarkable. Curiosity burning, the man presses the sorcerer, demanding he finally say his name. He cuts in and introduces himself, a Magnus. Fuming, the boy remembers how this guy locked him up for absolutely no reason. He tells them Farah and the others have been handling this forever, and now, with Matt, the palace prison is about to be packed to the brim. Right now, the Emperor drops the bombshell. Magnus is getting a special free pass. Right then, someone steps in and yells at them to hold up, don't make the call yet. Gustavo from Farah's wedding snaps that it's way too dangerous to give permission to someone this suspicious, especially when nobody knows what their malicious intent really is. Fuming right back at them, the princess tells Mulatto that Lord Magnus is the real deal, and she's willing to stand as proof. He brushes her off and keeps going, roaring about his majesty. This sorcerer is lying to the princess and committing a heinous crime. He warns that if the country ever lets someone like him take control, disaster won't just strike once, it'll crush the whole nation. Hearing that, the emperor's confidence crumbles, and unease crawls under his skin. The man explains that the victorious soldiers swore they'd seen the sorcerer and Her Majesty Farah talking in whispers, close enough to burn. Irritation flares in her eyes as she snaps, this makes no sense. She whirls toward her father and snaps that the accusation is pure nonsense. The man insists His Majesty can see he's honest, that he's working for his own good, and he's already sure of exactly what has to be done. Fuffly, that old man just nods and admits that Mulatto has always handed out solid advice. Right now, the princess's nerves snap, while Mulatto grins like a lunatic. Magnus realizes this whole scheme is nothing but a trap meant to crush his political opponent. With a sly smile, the Emperor admits he'd clocked the sorcerer as suspicious from the very beginning, and he never planned to approve anything. Mulatto says it's exactly what you'd expect from His Majesty, and the man just nods along, calling it perfectly fine and praising His Majesty's loyalty as downright admirable. The princess realizes that if her foolish father feels this way, the whole kingdom is finished, so she shuts her eyes and starts wrestling with what she has to do next. Magnus leans in and warns her to clamp down on that temper before it explodes. Magnus insists this is the only way he won't get authorization, and the protagonist leans in, asking if he's allowed to speak, calling him Your Highness. Suddenly, a pack of guards bursts into the room. Desperate, one of the guards blurts out that a rebellion is exploding, and that countless soldiers are charging forward. The king snaps, demanding answers. What in the world are you talking about? Everyone's left reeling by the news, except the protagonist, who just smiles like he already saw this coming. Mulatto blurts out that this can't be real and demands to know what the Imperial Guards are doing. The guards then gasp with the worst news. Most of the Imperial Guards have thrown in with the rebellion. Fists clenched tight, the king roars for answers, who, by the devils, is actually steering this rebellion. The guards snap back that His Highness King Du is the rebellion's boss, because he's the Empire's crown prince. Hearing that, the king freezes stiff with pure shock, like his spine just got nailed in place. The princess, she's just as terrified. She can't help but wonder what her brother thinks he'll win from all this, especially since he's already first in line for the throne. Kneeling before the king, the protagonist begs His Majesty, saying his life hangs by a thread and demanding to know what he'll allow them to do next. The king snaps back that he refuses to die, no matter what, and orders someone to take care of that fool before everything goes up in flames. He yells for Mulatto, but Mulatto fakes it, clutching his chest and insisting he's having a stroke. Rage erupts in anger the king, and he snaps at the traitor to fix this right now. A sobbing Mulatto begs the king for mercy, pleading so softly and sweetly you'd swear her voice could calm a storm. Right now the king's at a total loss, so the protagonists step in and say, "Gear up, we're arming ourselves for whatever's coming next." As emperor, he'll never get their forgiveness, because the rebels will hunt that grudge to the grave. Curious, the king leans in and asks, "If I weren't the emperor, would that horde still bow to me?" The boy just smirks and says, maybe they'd ignore you." He should wear those comments loud and proud, just like any emperor's supposed to be, a wise man who would never even dream of something this huge. With a grin on his face, the emperor declares that he's done. He won't rule as emperor anymore. This new declaration blasts everyone's minds, except for the one guy who already saw it coming. The emperor snaps, walks away from the throne, and hands his power straight to his daughter, Farah. He declares she'll be the next empress, and then casually announces that King Du is her new problem. With the ring clutched tight in her hand, the protagonist flashes a windful grin and congratulates her, calling her Your Majesty. Hearing that, her nerves snap. She can't find a word, frozen in pure shock like she's gone catatonic. She challenges her, "Are you really the new empress?" And the boy stretches his arms toward the throne like he's calling her in, shouting that it's finally time to start her work. She started figuring out exactly what had to be done. She snatches the ring and slides it onto her finger like she's sealing her fate. She slams down her orders, lock up the former emperor and haul him straight to the West Tower. This tower isn't a building, it's a gilded prison for royalty, and they'll lock him inside for the rest of his life. The guards snap to attention and rush him away. The former emperor is taken immediately. She snaps an order to the guards, "Move now, no delays," because the rebels are about to smash in, and this is the new empress demanding it. She screams at Hiddle that under her command he'll be executed for treason, and she gives him one last shot to argue, "Speak now or shut up forever." A bunch of them hit their knees and promise out loud that they've got zero objections, then swear their loyalty to Her Majesty Farah. Seeing it, the boy realizes their loyalty isn't real, yet, and he knows she still has time to fix this mess and steady the government. That's the catch, if she can pull it off. As he closes in, Magnus bows and swears to Her Majesty, "I'll protect you, no matter what." She tells him, "I'll trust you again," and then she adds, "Don't worry, I've got you." With a sharp, suspicious stare, he mutters that after all this, he might finally have to ask her for something only she can pull off. With that bright smile, she nods and promises she'll train herself into an empress worthy of his favor. Then the teacher, all smiles too, says it actually sounds like a promising start. Right then, footsteps start creeping into the hall. Everything goes silent as the hero and the princess wait for the rebel crew to finally burst into the palace. Right on cue, her brother shows up, flanked by a bunch of guards. With a grin, the boy tells her, "I already know what you mean." She's stunned and blurts, "Why are you risking all this? Because that crown was always going to be yours anyway." He says if they hand the country over to their father, it'll crumble day by day, so they decide to get rid of that fool ASAP. And rage hits her hard. She's convinced they should have taken the throne clean with no mess. Magnus interrupts, then demands to know if His Majesty rules for the country's good, or if he just doesn't care at all. If that's the case, then he should have picked a smarter road, because that path he chose was a disaster. Hearing that, the prince snaps, wondering if the boy is basically telling him to act more reasonable. Then the protagonist fires back that it's all a misunderstanding, and that he fully gets the prince's political motives. Then he lines in and tells the prince, "You shouldn't have traded your soul to a demon." When this hits, the empress and everyone around her go completely wide-eyed, frozen in shock. The prince bursts into laughter and snaps that those words sound way too suspicious coming from a sorcerer. Magnus drops the truth like it's common knowledge. Everybody knows the name of the cursed general. He tells them how, when they invaded that country, they cooked up a potential traitor, duped the high nobility, and watched them cash in, selling their souls without even realizing it. He reveals the truth: General Morin, the mastermind who orchestrated the invasion of Alabar under His Majesty Heidel. Irritatingly, the guards bicker while one swears Lord Hiddle has always dreamed of bringing Alabar back to strength, and another shoots back that he'd never sell his soul to a demon. Confusion hits hard as the prince demands answers, why Magnus never called him out before, and why he's finally doing it now. With a grim stare, the protagonist leans in and declares, "All right, now I'm answering that." He blurts that it's because he finally got the key to the underground palace. The ancient magical empire's imperial palace is the underground palace, buried deep in a spot so hard to reach it feels impossible, and at first, you need all 4 keys to unlock the transfer gate. He claims one key was unearthed in the Ramses ruins, but after just a day someone swiped it, and now it's apparently sitting in His Majesty's hands. He says the other keys are trapped right inside this building, locked away inside a special vault. Only the ones who possess the Emperor's ring can open it. Magnus points to the truth behind this coup. Its real motive is buried in the key. And let the imperial throne in their grasp wait for now. When Heidel hears this explanation, pure rage explodes through him. Tears threatening to spill, he blurts out his very first question about the underground palace. He tells them this is why ancient Alabama vanished overnight, why a massive magical ritual tore it apart until all that was left was a burning desert. He admits nobody ever had the full details of the ritual, until Heidel hears the whole story from General Morin. He tells them the ritual was meant to call up only the Demon King's mana, but instead, it dragged the Demon King himself into the world, and humans couldn't control him at all. When Heidel hears this, his eyes go wide. He can't believe it and swears it's one insane coincidence. The protagonist lays it out. Heidel grabbed a chunk of the demon's manor stash and went hunting for a way into the underground palace. He explains that the prince meant to unleash this power and drag Alabama back to greatness. Shocked to the bone, the citizens start whispering, "Is this even real?" because they can't shake the feeling this is dangerously true. Reiki breaks the silence and the prince snaps, blaming the mage for nonsense, while Reiki fires back and warns the crowd not to get pulled in by his taunts. Irritation surged as he demanded, what kind of demon was this boy, really? This kid realizes the whole reason they cracked the key to the underground palace and uncovered the Ramses ruins was because he'd seen it coming. Heidel was about to spark a rebellion. The assault commander strides up to His Majesty Heidel and orders him to clap, insisting that everything he's done so far counts as a full-on success. He can't help thinking that if this kid had just made smarter choices, backing him for the throne might have actually felt right. With a sharp outstretched arm, the protagonist declares that King Hiddle struck a contract with General Marlon, and then, in a chilling ceremony, sold his soul. Once he spots the man drawing his sword, it hits him. This crown prince never sold his dignity. The man claims that by feeding into General Marlon's craving to forge Alabarna's army stronger, everything clicks into place. He pushed it to grow stronger and stronger. Still, the protagonist leans in and tells him the truth. He already wiped out General Marlon. He screams that Marlon should have never been dragged into a human accusation, and that getting a map for him already counted as a win. The princess and her people are in complete disbelief at what they're seeing and at what they're hearing. The prince shuts his mouth tight and says nothing at all. Right now, the hero snatches a stone off the ground. It blazes so fiercely that the prince jerks back immediately. That light blasts so hard it sears his hands, and he can't help staring in stunned disbelief. This purple and blue celestial jewel awakens General Marlon's power, and when it shines, it tears away the disguise to reveal his true form. With pure terror flooding his body, the man pleads for him to stop right now. Then right in the blink of an eye, he explodes into a towering serpent, exposing his real form, and panic rips through the crowd, even the princess, as she breaks down and sobs for her brother. This creature is absolutely gigantic, like some bird-beast nightmare ripped straight out of a legend. As the danger hits, people scatter and sprint for their lives, while the protagonist grips his staff tight, fuels his magic with raw power, and shouts to his majesty, Heidel. The princess points at Magnus, the hero who crushed the Demon King, and demands he finally swallow his defeat. Magnus fires back that he never heard a word, and then, when it's all said and done, he's the one walking away as the victor. They snatch one of the magical objects right out from under everyone's nose. Smiling, Magna tells them, "Save this, because we're taking it straight to a decisive battle in the underground palace." The rebels will snap instantly. They get captured so easily it feels cruel, and the story admits why. The Spiral Guardians got abandoned and are just left hanging there for now, while the Empress's first division puts all their faith in one thing, guarding the palace. Right in front of the hero, the princess panics, apologizes for the burden, and hands him the special authorization. With the authorization clutched in his hand, he realized that turning her into the Empress had finally opened the door. Now he could stride back into the palace. He called out to His Highness and snapped that Hiddle never should have ditched the treasure room key and gone scrambling for other ruins. Then he says, with the Emperor's full weight behind him, "I'm handing this to you." By now every single person has a key in hand, so he's got to move fast or it'll all slip away. With pure determination, she told Mr. Magnus to speak up. She wanted him to settle things with her brother. In just a day, the crew smashed through the ruins of Moria, and right there, they uncovered the final key to the underground palace. The Empress told them the guards at one ruin swore they'd seen her brother slip in and out with something in hand, so there was no time to question it. They bolted straight for the underground palace. Now, right at the teleportation door in the lizard ruins, Magnus steps up and tells them the underground palace still hasn't been explored, and it can't be that far. At that exact moment, the teleportation door starts to crack open, like something huge is about to break through. The protagonist blares, "Move now," and urges everyone to scatter immediately. Deep underground, they step into that palace and go, "Whoa, it's massive," and everyone can feel how different it is from any other ruin. Ted points at the village king and says it looks like he crushed the guardians, and the old man just nods like, "Yeah, your instincts are getting sharper, kid." As he scans the place, he realizes the underground palace is the heart of a legendary magical ritual, and that's why its whole structure has been crumbling, badly weakened by what happened here. One of the twins can't contain their excitement. If we track the collateral damage the bodies left behind, we might actually find people. Later on, the crew pushes deeper into the ruins, stepping past dead bodies and shattered structures. Suddenly, a few shattered guardians crawl into view, and the hero snaps the twins into calm, insisting, "You're safe, everything's fine." He blurts out that they're not marching straight along the prince's route at all, they're just dragging him off course on a detour. So he points at a door and tells you, "Right there, there's a magical object and you need it." They step straight into the crown prince's workshop, inside the ancient magical empire. The moment he spots the object, he breaks into a sprint toward it. He snaps to a halt the moment a stranger suddenly steps right in front of him. She swings open her workshop doors and warmly invites the whole group inside to see her craft. Shocked, one of the twins blurted, "Wait, are you a ghost?" And the daughter just smiled, saying a ghost wouldn't be this warm and friendly. She declares it's an ancient specter, like something time itself couldn't bury. Threw it away, then necromancy tore it back to life, and its body crawled into the world with a soul inside. The encyclopedia labels it as a monster that's no joke, at least level 30. Curious, the protagonist presses her about whether she's really claiming to be the crown prince, and she answers, yes. But he refuses to believe this thing is calling itself that just to fool him. The guy has zero clue what's going on, so he blurts out, "Wait, why are you saying this?" The sorcerer snaps that the prince died because he lost control of the ceremony. Then there was no time left to prepare for his reincarnation as a specter. Ignoring everything else, the man smirks and says the boy is holding something wild, an object with a faint divine glow. The protagonist's nerves shot through the roof when they realized the encyclopedia had never once mentioned anything like this. At that exact moment, the protagonist snaps at the specter to run, and the man smirks, saying he figured the real one would finally show itself the moment it was touched. Grinning, he tells the sorcerer that the book isn't the only prize he snagged. He's got something even more intriguing. In his head, the boy knew one thing for sure. Once they grabbed the object, there was no backing out now. Then he finally shows the thing the protagonist has been hunting and smirks that he won't fight, leaving the protagonist stunned and utterly lost. Hovering in midair, the man promises he'll find the specter and swears they'll cross paths again. Then, just like that, he vanishes into thin air. Now the protagonist grips the seal of the ancient imperial family of Alabarna, the exact prize he's been chasing. Right while the prince plots his coup, he's still stuck inside the palace walls. With his crew at his back, he strides up and shouts, "Ramsay," shouting at them to sprint straight to the far end of the corridor. Terrified, the men blurt that it smells like a trap. Then Ramsay snaps back that they have to move now, asking if they really want to die. With a menacing stare, he snarls that if they survive, the boss will hand them a reward, and they should be thankful they've got a leader that kind. Then boom, he misses, and every one of his subordinates suddenly bolts down the corridor toward the far end. But one trap snaps open and starts shredding them to pieces. It was a laser trap right down to the teeth. Then the prince yells for Nadia, and she unleashes her magic to smash every trap before it can bite. Once the traps are smashed to bits, one of the men blurts out that it's finally safe to push forward. They march down the corridor as the subordinates keep hunched over, chewing through pure exhaustion like it's the only meal they've got. While the rest are just criminals clinging to some pointless militant crew, his two assistants stand out like they're in a league of their own. He could barely wrap his head around it. This kind of man like him once served his homeland in public service. And it proves that even battling corruption with corruption can hit back for the right reasons. After a while, they finally burst into the proving grounds, down on the deepest floor of the underground palace. Everyone cheers the moment they all made it, while the women insist, with shaking relief, that they're finally safe now. One of them blurts out that Magnus from the group isn't here. Pointing at the wrecked gate, the prince barks an order to one of his subordinates. Nervous as hell, the man blurts out whether the leader plans to sacrifice him, and the prince shoots back, "What am I even supposed to say?" With a cocky, menacing glare, he tells the man that if he makes it to those doors, he'll get a reward, and he'd better thank his generous leader for it. Then the subordinates yank out their swords. Before he can react, the women step in fast, slam him down to the ground, and take control. Enraged, the man blurts that trusting someone like the prince was nothing but pure folly. Suddenly, the subordinate gets tossed aside, and he sprints straight for the solar imitator. Like a deadly trap crawling with monsters. In seconds, he's torn to pieces, utterly shattered, right there before the leader, who doesn't even blink. Terrified, the group blurts out that from the original 100 flesh golems, they've only lost a small slice, though everyone's shaking because they admit most were thrown at Jamda, and they even managed to kill one before. So yeah, because of this, the beaten Jamda had to be erased, letting Hiddle seize his power, and that brutal sacrifice became unavoidable. They straight up tell him the sacrifice isn't optional, it's the key that sparks evolution, and it's the price they must pay for the future too. Leading his crew, the man roars that this is the moment to forge his future from the ground up. Ripping through everything in their path, they finally crash into a black sphere. The man is stunned and blurts out that it actually works. Right there, the Demon King's man watches it, and the prince grins, saying, "Just a bit more effort and it'll be mine." Tackling that terror head-on, he grins and says, his long, hard plan is finally paying off. Suddenly, a wild noise snaps his attention, and he whips around. The protagonist finally bursts in. The prince admits he never thought he'd get nabbed, and Magnus grins like he already had it, because he knew he'd close the distance and catch him. The prince didn't just dream, he vowed to smash the old weakness and make his country strong again. Alabarna's militant crew stormed his nation, and he knew the only way to keep from going down was to take control, because if he didn't, he'd be forced to exploit people and get crushed. His nation was bleeding out economically, and there was zero chance of pushing for any military expansion. He couldn't march his beloved people into a brutal grind of attrition. He needed to begin with baby steps, like tightening the nation's governance first. But the moment it hit him, despair crashed over him. Because his so-called sovereign leader was an absolute fool. The Gemini lined into General Mira's despair and used it like a weapon. The prince tricked him first, then ended his life. Power surged through his hands, and in a flash he transformed into a monster. By ripping away his human shell, he swore he could kick off a ruthless war, clean, pure, and free of any corruption. This sparked hope in him enough to conquer a full 1,000 years as the cursed general. So he carried his country's legacy forward and forged it into the greatest empire in history. Right then, while he basked in those thoughts, his lost heart warmed up just a little. Right then, the protagonist's entire crew bursts onto the scene. The prince slams his authority down on the table, waving the imperial council like a weapon, and commands everyone to give up their lives. Magnus slams down the seal of the ancient imperial family, stronger than the prince's, and it instantly overrides them, forcing everyone to stop the fight. Seeing it, everyone freezes in shock, right there with the prince and his servants. They just got slammed with two totally opposite orders at once, so their bodies immediately drop into rest mode. Stunned, the prince snaps, so why does Magnus have the seal too? And the boy breaks into a grin, telling him, no way, I couldn't possibly attack flesh golems. The twin is practically bursting with joy at the hero's genius. Furious as fire, the prince slams his ultimate magic to full power and transforms into a level 42 king. The boy remarks that the celestial city's jewel, purple and blue, keeps blasting out terrifying power just like everyone expected. Right then, a monster slams the ground and whips up a colossal tornado out of thin air. The mage snaps open his magical item, absolute air and drinks in the wind's damage like it's nothing. Consumed by pure rage, the prince snaps back into position, ready to strike again. The protagonist snaps back with thunder magic, and the air practically crackles. He clocks it instantly. This thing behaves like air, soaking up only the thunder attribute damage on contact. The monster barrels ahead without hesitation. Gladius lunges in and sinks his teeth into the monster's arm, pumping in venom that paralyses it on the spot. That mithril golem can shrug off paralysis venom with ease, but this time the poison was absurdly, dangerously potent. A female companion rushes up to mend Gladius and get him back on his feet. She snaps him back to normal in seconds, then grins and says she's finally got her blessing. He learns that mastering strengthening magic means you need a natural sorcerer with sister-type magic, and he finds the truth in the magic amplification book, Discovery of Runes *, so now he drives himself past every limit he has. Without wasting a second, the female companion surges Gladius with a power-up that spikes his strength, agility, resistance, and defense. Gladius slammed back into the battle and refused to let up. One brother grips a chunk of refined mithril and pure shock hits him, because that tiny piece could be worth a fortune. Ramsay lays it out. This move is an investment meant to cripple the cursed general, and once the order comes, you fire him with zero hesitation. Right then it hits him, maybe courage is part of the answer too, and if he studies Rankin's skill, he can spot the one safe distance. With a grin, he proudly admits just how far the others have come. He snatched up his crossbow and swore he'd give it everything he had. With his first shot, he catches one of the prince's top companions right in the arm. She reels from hit after hit, cries that she can't take any more, and pleads that she won't be able to help his majesty. Meanwhile, Gladius and the protagonist are duking it out with that monstrous prince, fighting for every inch of ground. Surprised, the prince blurts out that this is their very first clash. Then he stares them down and demands to know how the Magmas cooked up all those countermeasures ahead of time. Gladius smiles and blurts that it's a secret. Then the prince goes wide-eyed, demanding when he started making clones. With a piercing stare, the boy snaps back that it was obvious from the very start, leaving the prince even more shocked. Then he yells for Nadia and Salima to come help him, right now. Suddenly he rockets straight toward the protagonist. Magnus shoots back, demanding to know if the prince really means to grab the Demon King's mana straight to Force's level, because it'll rip him apart and turn him into a real monster. Magnus's warning hits a nerve and the prince snaps that Magnus just doesn't get it. He's going to win, save the country, and become the hero everyone cheers for. The moment the black sphere touches him, tears burst down his face, and a thunderous roar shakes the whole room. With a sudden thud, the creature drops hard to the ground, and Gladius rushes in just in time to keep the whole group from getting crushed. The mage snaps that the Water King is hopeless now, broken beyond saving, and fully turned into a monster. Both women are frozen in total shock, and Magnus snaps, "Look forward, now help me take it down." At that exact moment, he gets hit with a rush of memory, him and her as kids, tearing through childhood together like it just happened yesterday. Rage blazing, the hero snaps at them to focus. He blurts that the prince has turned into a raging monster, and this is the moment to end him with their own hands, saving the city they love with their lives. Then the women step forward, insisting they must finally let him go. Clutching their weapons, they stood in deadly silence, begging His Majesty, "Please forgive us." Everyone drops into place, locking in to bring down the monster. Right now, the hero starts chanting and drawing power into a brand new spell. With his left hand, he conjures a fully customized level 4 fire tornado from pure will and blazing power. With his right hand, he fine-tunes the earth element until it obeys his every command. He unleashes these attacks to crush the monster. Their strikes hit so hard the ground starts to split under their feet. The hero clings on with everything he's got, just to keep from getting hurled back. Then the mixed forces slam together and whip up a massive, unstoppable tornado. A fire tornado slams into the monster, scorching it to the ground and crushing it under its own terror, right down into its feet. To pull off a feat that brutal, you need mana so strong it practically rips through the air. But Magnus reminds him loud and clear, don't let power turn you blind. Whether it's His Majesty Heidel or anyone else. He remembers that first paragraph from the encyclopedia, how this kind of knowledge can save the world, how the outcome all comes down to him, and how they basically send him off with nothing but a good luck. He swears to himself, I'll never forget those words. After that mind-blowing battle, the protagonist rockets to level 38. Meanwhile, the protagonist stares at that rare item in his hands like it might explode with destiny. He slams the Imperial seal down and orders the Flesh-Gallon servants to keep every outsider away from the palace, for now. Magnus turns those combat servants into true guardians, then declares, loud and final, that they'll stand watch over the palace for eternity. Later on, deep inside King Alibar's palace, in the Garden of Alibar. Their words lit up the protagonist. He couldn't wait to celebrate both the win and the coronation together, all at once. Right then he flashes back to the day he asked His Majesty if people ever doubted her as Empress, and she smirked, saying it only cost less to let them question her each time. In the present day, Cream and Ram step up and greet everyone with big smiles and unstoppable energy. Meanwhile, a crowd swarms the twins, shoving drinks into their hands. And Gladius is down there playing catch and laughing with the kids. Arya tells her boyfriend this looks like the most fun ever. Magnus throws a quick thank you her way, greets everyone like it's his job, and admits he's totally not used to anything like this. She says this move will boost trade ties and that the company's guy has to be there. Then, right on cue, the Empress spots the protagonist and lights up with a warm smile, cheering him as the nation's savior. Arya steps forward, introduces herself, and announces that Magnus is with her. Then she leans in and congratulates her on the coronation. With a warm grin, the Empress snaps back that if the girl belongs to Magnus' company, then she's hers too, and she quickly pulls the protagonist's girlfriend into a tight, cheerful hug. Then she whips around to Magnus and tells him she's got to reward him again. He tells her that if she'll hook him up with a few travel perks, then that's the best reward he could ask for. The woman meets him with open arms, tells him she gets it, and then nudges the idea of giving him a title. She throws out the idea for the Empress's husband, and the second Magnus hears it, he's left speechless, while Arya just stares like she can't believe her own ears. Everyone's suddenly eavesdropping on the Empress's words, and the crowd erupts into one question. Did Farage propose? Right in the middle of all that chaos, the couple is left red-faced and mortified. After a while, Magnus snaps and tells everyone to lock in, no more jokes, take it seriously. The princess shot back with a sincere apology, owning up that it was all just a joke. Arya bursts into laughter, and that's when the princess blurts out the truth. She's honestly jealous. She admits she'd love to be teamed up with Magnus too. Then Arya smiles and tells her it's a bummer, but not to worry, because she's sure she'll land a great companion. Magnus looks around, totally baffled. There's hardly anyone here she can just click with and make friends. Switching gears, the princess promises Magnus plus La Custa that if they defeat the Demon King, her country will crown them as the heroes who did it. The boy grins and thanks her for the reward. She leans in close, whispers right into his ear, and tells him he doesn't need to return the key. He can come by any time he wants. He coughs hard, then shoots back that he'll slip in through the main entrance. Blushing hard and giggling, she blurts out that she absolutely loves the Magnus part. Later on, the three twins turn to the mage with huge smiles, thanking him like their hearts are about to burst, because now they can finally celebrate Christmas, and no words could ever repay him enough. Magnus smiles and thanks them by name, Ted, Red, and Mad, and tells them he's genuinely thrilled he got to meet them. Hearing him say that, the three of them were hit right in the heart, totally moved by his words. Magnus leans in and fires a question at Red. Do you remember what you said when we formed the group? Red kept repeating it, saying the legend of Ramsay would never die, and that they'd rise into legendary adventurers. The protagonist flashes a grin and blurts out that it really happened, somehow it came true. With a huge grin, he tells them he couldn't be prouder of everything they've pulled off. That heartfelt farewell hits so hard it leaves the three twins blushing. As they head out, they make it crystal clear. Magnus can drop by any time, because when he arrives, they'll greet him with open arms. Elsewhere, the protagonist leans in to talk with the elderly Sissa, amazed that she's perfectly made for the job of court priestess. Irritation flares in her voice as she tells him to cut the flattery and get to the point, then reminds him she's supposed to be out on vacation in the southern islands. She says the new government shift is set to shake everyone with pure nerves, and yeah, we can't pretend he didn't have to step up and help the princess. She snaps it out, "That's not why I chose the dress," and you can feel the irritation in every word. As the boy argues, he blurts that she has to wear the right dress, otherwise she can't become the princess's larvae. The old woman jabs a finger at Ramsay and demands to know what the boy really thinks of him. Time rewinds and the protagonist lands back inside the same palace where he crushed the prince, only to learn that long ago the Demon King's mana was unleashed here, and it was way too monstrous for any human to survive. In the present, the old woman snaps that this old man is hanging around with a princess and still not dressed down, and Ramsay fires back that a secret agent shouldn't be dressed in fancy, extravagant clothes. He tells them how he once watched the court shake apart and the whole country vanish, so now he's convinced he has to back the ruler of today, even if it costs him his life. The hero blurts out that this will truly help, and that he can finally trust him again, because knowing where he'll be makes all the difference. The old woman snaps that he's spewing pure selfish talk, then adds, "Yeah, you've got a lot to handle, but everyone else won't find what you're searching for." She says she's a woman who's loved so hard she can't just stand by, she has to help. Outside La Custa, the protagonist walks up to his girlfriend and presses, "How are you doing?" She says Nadia and Sarima are crushing it, but they're still just helping with the trade. Magnus says Nadia's city gate is going to make travel a lot easier, and Nadia agrees, straight up admitting it's already saving them. After smashing Heidel, the protagonist talked them into becoming go-betweens for the Marumu company, and yeah, the Empress signed off. They promise they'll pay for every crime, and give their lives to the country His Majesty Heidel loves more than anything. By landing jobs at Marumu Company and pushing fair trade contracts, they didn't just find work, they found a whole new reason to live. Tenzin of La Custa pushed his men to trade their souls for the demon's power, but Heidel snapped back and made sure he was the only one who sacrificed his own. Because of it, his sisters lived through it, and now they're stepping forward on the road to full rehab. The hero fires back, asking if this was truly what the prince had planned, and as Magnus stares up at the sky, the truth hits him hard. He wasn't a hero at all, just a pawn the prince moved around. She swore to herself that trade was surging, and the boy nodded right along, saying maritime trade is hands down the best route. The protagonist lays it out plain. To take down Kaiju's evil general, he's got to scrape together money and a huge country before the year runs out. Buzzing with excitement, his girlfriend tells him Marumu's company will pull the money together, and that everything's already set and ready to go. Magnus beams, thanks his girlfriend with all his heart, and tells her he couldn't pull off any of this without her. Fresh islands rise in the sea, and a whole federation of companies races in, staking out territories on every single one. Welcome to the land of Kaiju. Arya just declared that the Mage is done traveling the old ways, and has crossed all 9 islands from here on out. With a grin blazing on her face, she tells him, "This time I'm coming with you." The boy freezes, because he remembers how she warned him it was impossible to pull off alone. She promises to help him, and suddenly they get a real shot at spending way more time together. Then she asks if he wouldn't think it's downright fantastic to sail through the southern islands, and Magnus, cheeks burning, shoots back that he's got nothing against it. Arya beams with pure joy, tells her boyfriend to trust her, and practically dares him. She's already planning to buy a brand new bikini. In Bezer's workshop, the protagonist snaps the man's attention the moment he starts drawing. He can't believe it. How on earth did he turn a robot ant into a maid? In the present area, she stared in disbelief and muttered that she can't accept it. This place was once packed with pirates. Her boyfriend says it's been 100 years since the southern pirate king named the Kachu Pirates, crushed the rebels, and forged a pirate kingdom. Then the video cuts off right there. Don't miss the next part. Hit the notification bell and I'll catch you on Tab's channel next time.